welcome to the space of stillness where ancient Zen stories meet the modern soul. Here we do not merely hear the teachings of the Buddha, but we touch the very breath of life where every scratch, every wound, every yearning becomes the path back to peace. How long has it been since you truly stopped? We live in a world overflowing with sound, news, objectives, expectations. And sometimes in that race, we forget the simplest thing. The present reality is right here. Reality does not need to be fixed, does not need to be made nicer, more correct, or more meaningful. It only needs to be seen with eyes no longer covered by expectations. In Buddhism, letting go does not mean giving up or surrendering. Letting go means seeing the true nature of everything so that we are no longer carried away by what we want it to become. Only when we stop demanding that life conforms to the templates in our minds do we truly begin to live. We often think, if I try a little harder, if I become more perfect, if others understand me more, then I will find peace. But it is precisely that belief that draws us further away from peace. Because every expectation is a rope that pulls us out of the present, causing us to live in the what should be instead of the what is. And as the Buddha taught, suffering does not come from circumstances, but from how we view those circumstances. When we release expectations, we lose nothing. On the contrary, we regain the ability to see life just as it is, simple, unadorned, sometimes rough, but true to the point of melting our hearts. Just as a lake reflects the sky, only when it stops being disturbed, our mind can only reflect reality when we stop trying to change it. Tonight, through these ancient Zen stories, you will see that the journey of letting go is not a matter of going somewhere far, but returning to this very moment where each breath, each sound, each feeling is a teacher. Each story is a mirror for you to realize. The world out there is not noisy, only our mind is not quiet enough. Life is not harsh, only we are viewing it through the smoke of our desires. Let your heart settle. Let these words be like a small stream flowing through the bamboo grove, cool, slow, and true. Because sometimes just stopping is already awakening. And now I invite you to embark on the first journey with a small story, yet enough to open the greatest door of the heart. That suffering does not lie in life, but in how we view life. In the early morning at the monastery, a thin mist still covered the bamboo stands. The surface of the lake mirrored the gentle silver light of the sun just waking. The space was so still that the fall of a single leaf sounded like the whisper of time. The Zen master sat by the veranda before him, a steaming cup of tea, his eyes quietly watching the water's slight ripples, each wave fading, and then flat again. In that moment, he did nothing, simply sat, simply saw, simply breathed in rhythm with the flow of life. A disciple approached his face gloomy, his eyes reddened from sleeplessness. He bowed his head and spoke, his voice full of despair. "Teacher, I see life as nothing but dust. Everywhere I go, I see falseness, exhaustion, people filled with ambition and woundedness. I cannot bear this world any longer." The Zen master looked at him for a long moment, his gaze kind but deep, as if looking through the mist covering the lake, then gently asked, "Are you sure life is full of dust? Or is it just your eyes that are not open yet?" That question fell into the silence like a drop of water on the smooth lake rippling in the student's mind. then spreading deep into the listener's being. Could it be that the world is truly dirty, or only that our view has been covered by dust? Could it be that it is our grievances, our fears, our prejudices that have dimmed life's inherent light? The Zen master's words were not only for the young student, but for each of us, those weary in life, always believing suffering lies out there. But sometimes the dust is not in the wind, but in the eyes that are looking at the world. One day in a secluded mountain monastery, there was a little novice named Rin. He was known for being diligent, gentle, and earnest in his practice. But few knew Rin was very sensitive. Just a small argument between two people, a fallen leaf, or a peeling monastery wall was enough to unsettle his heart. One early summer morning, when the first sunlight shone through the moss-covered roof tiles, Rin was sweeping the courtyard. Tiny dust particles rose in the pale golden beam, shimmering like thousands of threads of time. He paused, looked long at the dust swirling in the air. His gaze grew heavy, and then he sighed softly. Life is all dust. Humans' intentions, actions all defiled. The bamboo broom fell lightly to the ground. That sentence drifted in the silent space like a lonely confession. At the same time, his teacher, an old Zen master, over 60, with slow steps and a gaze as deep as the early morning lake, approached. He did not ask immediately, but stood beside him quietly, watching the dancing dust in the sun. After a moment, his voice calm yet kind. "Where do you see dust?" Rin without hesitation. Rin answered, "Everywhere, teacher. On the path, on the leaves, in the wind, and even inside my mind." The Zen master smiled, neither refuting nor explaining. He simply bent down, picked up a tiny grain of sand, then unexpectedly blew it gently toward Rin's face. Startled, Rin flinched. A small grain hit his eye sharply. He blinked repeatedly, tears welling up. The master asked, voice as still as a passing breeze, "Now where do you see dust?" Rin rubbing his eye, his voice choked, "In my eye." "Teacher." The Zen master nodded, his smile warm like the late afternoon sun. "Yes. When the dust is outside, you can still see the sky. But when the dust is in your eye, you see only blur. You believe this world is dirty, false, cruel, but perhaps only because your eye is hurting." Those words were like a gentle arrow hitting its mark. Rin stood in silence. Every breeze, every leaf rustle, every gong from afar seemed clearer than ever. He looked at the surroundings. The dust still swirled. The sunlight still streamed. But now they appeared strangely beautiful. From that day, Rin no longer complained about dust. Every morning, when sweeping the courtyard, he no longer saw dust as something to chase away, but as part of a dance in the light. He watched the dust drift in the sun and smiled the smile of one who has just seen what his eyes had never seen before. He realized that this world does not need to be cleaner for us to be at peace. What is needed is the eye that knows how to see unclouded by dust in the mind. And from that moment, Rin truly began to see, not merely with his eyes, but with the deep stillness within his heart. In the Buddhist teaching, suffering does not come from things, but from mistaken perception. The Buddha called this ignorance, meaning not seeing the true nature of things. We look at life with eyes stained by illusions, so we only see confusion, darkness. But if the mind is clear, the same scene becomes serene. Zen does not teach us to change the world, but to clean the eye so we can see the world as it is. A person with a toothache tastes everything as bitter. But the fault is not in the food, but in the aching tooth. The mind is similar. When the mind is filled with hatred, we find everyone irritating. When the mind is anxious, we see life full of unrest. In the Lankavatara Sutra, the Buddha taught, if one uses a pure mind to see the world is pure. If one uses a defiled mind to see the world is defiled. This means reality is never wrong. The fault lies in how we see. Zen is the art of seeing without judging, feeling without grasping. When we stop trying to fix life, we begin to understand life. When we stop wanting to cleanse others, we begin to see the dust in ourselves. When you feel tired of the world, pause and ask yourself, is everyone bad? Or am I looking with wounded eyes? Whenever someone hurts us, we often close up, defend, and view life through a thick lens of suspicion. But a suspicious mind only sees the reflection of itself. If you wear gray-colored glasses, everything is gray. If you wear clear lenses, everything naturally becomes bright. In cognitive psychology, people tend to filter information to match their existing beliefs. If we believe the world is full of injustice, we will only see evidence that reinforces that belief. If we believe that among the dust of life there is light, then light will find us. A study by Harvard University showed that people who practice mindfulness daily are able to change brain structures related to emotions and patience. They see the same event, but respond differently, gently, clearly, and with fewer judgments. The Buddha taught, a purified mind results in a purified world. Not because life changed, but because we changed. When we clean the dust from our eyes, the world returns to its original brilliance. Before you go to sleep tonight, try something very simple. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Then imagine there is a tiny speck of dust in your eye. Do not try to remove it. Just acknowledge it. When you stop reacting, the dust falls by itself. When you stop chasing, the mind becomes clear. That is the practice of meditation in daily life. Not to extinguish thoughts, but to see thoughts arising and dissolving, like clouds passing across the sky. If someone upset you today, do not rush to judge them. Try to look at them as the mirror reflecting your own state. They may be the dust, helping you to see your mind clearly. Before you drift into sleep, let your mind be cleansed by the breath. Inhale, recognize that you are breathing. Exhale, relinquish all burdens. No need to change anyone. No need to change the scene, only change the way you see. You will see even suffering has its own light. Life always sends us specks of dust to test whether our eyes are open yet. Sometimes it is the person who hurt us, sometimes the unexpected event. But those are the opportunities for us to see deeper truths. And just like in the small garden behind the monastery, a gardener once tried to shield a tree from the wind. He thought he was protecting the tree, but in truth, he was weakening it. In the afternoon in the garden behind the monastery, the wind swept down from the distant mountains carrying a chill and the scent of dry grass. Fallen leaves circled the Bodhi tree, rising and scattering beneath the hazy sunlight. The wind whispered like someone murmuring softly words that could only be heard when one's heart was truly still. The gardener bent down to sweep the leaves, his brows furrowed. Each time the wind grew stronger, dust blew into his eyes, making him uneasy. He raised his hand to shield his face, muttering complaints. Soon, he took a large cloth, stretched it around the young tree to block the wind, then tied the weaker branches so they wouldn't move. In his mind, he was protecting the garden, keeping it peaceful. When the Zen master passed by, the gardener stopped, wiped his sweat, and sighed. "I just want this garden to be calm. If the wind keeps blowing like this, how can the young trees survive?" The Zen master looked around. His gaze rested on the trees swaying gently in the wind. And he softly asked, "Are you sure the trees need calmness? Or is it you who needs calmness?" The question fell gently, yet deeply. The gardener lowered his head silent. In truth, that question was not only for him, but for all of us. Because in life, we are often the same. We want the world to stop blowing, no pain, no loss, no one leaving. We build fences around our hearts, hoping to keep a small sense of safety. But strangely, the more we shield ourselves, the weaker we become. Because the very wind we fear is what teaches the trees to stand strong. And what about us? The winds of life, the trials and hardships are perhaps teaching us one simple lesson. True peace does not come from avoiding the wind, but from learning to stand steady within it. Long ago, in a misty valley between mountain ranges, there lived an old gardener near an ancient temple. His garden was famous throughout the region. Flowers bloomed all year. Leaves were green, and a stream murmured through mossy pines. Travelers often stopped to admire it, praising the old man's care and love for the earth. Yet in that garden stood a small sapling. It was delicate, barely chest high, its thin trunk bending slightly toward the wind. Each time the mountain winds blew, the young tree trembled as if frightened. Seeing this, the old man hurried over, wrapping thick cloth around it, setting up barriers and tying ropes to stop it from swaying. He told his apprentice, "I must protect it, or the wind will break it." Days passed. Months rolled by. The tree didn't break, but its trunk grew weaker. Its leaves yellowed quickly, and its roots stayed shallow. Meanwhile, the other trees bent by the same winds, beaten by the same rains, grew tall and strong, their roots gripping deep into the earth. One early autumn morning, a Zen master from the nearby temple visited the garden. He saw the old gardener bending down, tying another rope around the young tree. His face worried. The master stopped, his eyes calm yet profound. "What are you doing?" The gardener looked up, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I'm shielding the tree from the wind. If I leave it like this, it won't survive." The master gazed at the tree for a long while. The wind rose again, swirling golden dust around the roots, making his robe flutter slightly. Then, in a quiet and steady voice, he said, "You think the wind comes to harm the tree? No. The wind is its teacher. It teaches the tree how to stand." The gardener froze speechless. After a pause, he asked, "But what if the wind is too strong, master?" The Zen master smiled, his eyes lined with age yet filled with gentle light. "If the tree knows how to bend, even strong winds cannot break it." Then he walked away, leaving a long silence behind. Only the wind remained, softly repeating his words among the branches. That evening, the gardener sat on the veranda for a long time. He watched the young tree swaying under the moonlight, small yet resilient. The next morning, he removed all the ropes, folded away the cloth, and let the tree meet the wind on its own. At first, it bent wildly, trembling as if about to snap. But as the days passed, its trunk grew firmer, its leaves turned green again, and its roots dug deeper into the earth. A year later, when autumn returned, that same tree had grown tall and steady, stronger than many grown trees around it. The gardener smiled. He realized that all this time, he hadn't been nurturing the tree, he had been holding it out of his own fear. And like the tree, he understood life does not need us to block the wind. It needs us to learn to stand within it. That simple story reflects how humans face suffering. We all fear the wind, not the literal kind, but the winds of life loss, betrayal, loneliness, illness, failure. We build walls inside, lock our hearts, and try to keep everything calm. But when we do that, our minds grow weaker, like a tree cut off from the sun and wind. The Buddha taught, "In suffering lies the seed of awakening. No one awakens in days of ease." Zen does not teach us to escape the wind, but to stand still within it, without resistance, without fear, simply feeling and understanding it. Suffering is not the enemy. It is the silent friend that helps us see what we have not yet understood within ourselves. Just as the wind does not wish to harm the tree, but only to teach it how to stand. In modern psychology, this is known as post-traumatic growth, the growth that follows pain. Research shows that after great adversity, people can develop a deeper sense of gratitude and spiritual depth than they ever had before. The wind takes nothing away. It only removes the illusion that we could live untouched. Every hardship has a purpose. It does not come to punish, but to remind us of truth. When life sends headwinds, do not rush to blame. Ask instead, what is this wind trying to teach me? If you have been hurt, perhaps life is teaching you to love without control. If you have lost, perhaps you are learning impermanence. If you have been lonely, perhaps you are learning to befriend yourself. In Buddhist teaching, every experience carries two faces, suffering and wisdom. If we see only the pain, we miss the gift that comes with it. Try observing your mind in times of difficulty. When the wind blows, instead of building walls, breathe. Just breathe and listen to what your heart is trembling for. When you face it gently, suffering dissolves slowly, like morning mist melting under soft sunlight. A study from Stanford Neuroscience Institute found that simply taking 6 deep breaths during anxiety can significantly reduce stress levels in the brain. Inhale. Exhale. Not to avoid the wind, but to remember you are still here and the wind will pass. The Buddha taught, when the mind no longer resists suffering, transforms into wisdom. Reality itself is not cruel. It becomes harsh only when we resist it. Tonight, before you sleep, try a small practice. Lie still. Close your eyes. Feel your breath as a gentle wind passing through your body. Inhale, invite the wind in. Exhale, smile to it. If something today made you tired, a word, a worry, a wound not yet healed, don't push it away. See it as a breeze passing through your inner garden. You don't need to keep it, and you don't need to fear it. Just whisper within, "Thank you, wind, for reminding me that I am still alive." Then relax your shoulders, loosen your hands, and feel your body sink into the stillness of the night. Like a garden after the storm, everything returns to peace. But this time, the peace has deeper roots. You will realize peace is not the absence of wind, but the ability to stand steady within it. In the end, the gardener understood there was nothing left to shield. He simply let the tree grow, let the wind teach it to stand, and let himself learn the same lesson nature has whispered to humankind. Since the beginning, every movement has meaning. And on the mornings that followed, as mist covered the monastery, he could hear the temple bell echo through the haze, deep, even, and warm. They said it was an old man who rang the bell every morning, though no one could see him through the fog. When asked why he still did it, he only smiled. Because when I strike the bell, the mist in my heart clears. That is the next story, where we will see that when the heart is clear, the world begins to shine. Early morning in the monastery, the fog was so thick that even the stone steps beneath the porch vanished into the mist. Everything seemed to be holding its breath. Only the chill and the scent of damp earth remained. Through that silence, a bell rang faint, yet astonishingly clear. Its sound was not sharp, like metal striking bronze, but soft, deep, and spreading outward like ripples touching the shore of the heart. The Zen master sat on the veranda, eyes half closed, listening to the bell, drifting through the fog. Every morning, the bell rang, at the exact same time, never a beat off. No one knew who rang it. They only knew that whenever it sounded, the whole monastery seemed to awaken without anyone opening their eyes. A young novice, hands pressed together, asked quietly, "Master, the fog is so thick, surely no one can hear the bell. Why does that person still ring it every morning?" The Zen master smiled, his gaze resting on the place where the sound had just faded. Perhaps that person isn't ringing the bell for others to hear. The novice looked puzzled, wanting to ask more, but the master had already closed his eyes, returning to silence. That answer was like a second bell, not ringing outward, but resonating inward. In this fog-covered world, perhaps not everyone needs to hear. It is enough if one person is still enough to strike the bell within their own heart. For the true sound of the bell does not come from metal, but from the moment the mind awakens. And from that invisible sound, another story begins, the story of someone who did not seek to be heard, but to truly listen. Long ago, deep within an old pine forest where mist lingered all year, stood an ancient temple on a mountain slope. Generations of Zen masters had lived and practiced there, but over the years, the monks departed, leaving only an old man, once the temple's bellkeeper, to tend the grounds. He lived alone in a small wooden hut beside the moss-covered bell tower. Each morning, even when the fog was so thick he could not see the steps beneath him, he would step outside. His figure small, his back bent, his steps slow but steady. With trembling hands, he held the worn rope and looked up toward the bell hidden in the mist. As his fingers touched the rope, his eyes lit up, not with sunlight, but with a peace beyond words. He struck the bell 3 times. The sound spread clear and distant, fading slowly into the white fog. It felt like the breath of heaven and earth, light thin, yet reaching deep within the listener's heart. Villagers at the foot of the mountain often saw him. Some pitied him, thinking he was lonely. Others Others laughed softly, saying he was senile. A young man once said, "You're old, why keep ringing the bell? In this thick fog, no one can hear it." The old man smiled gently, his gaze far away. "I don't ring it for others to hear. I ring it because when the bell sounds, the fog in my heart clears." The young man stood silent, unable to understand. He thought it was just the comfort of an old man clinging to habit. He left carrying only the fading echo of the bell in his memory. Years passed. Winters grew longer. The days felt endlessly gray. The young people in the village began to sense another kind of fog, not outside, but within. Life had grown louder, yet emptier, full of voices, but none that brought peace. And strangely, on those cold mornings, they remembered that old bell. A sound meant for no one, yet warming the heart. One morning, the same young man returned to the temple. The fog was as heavy as ever, the wind just as cold, but the courtyard was silent. The old man was gone. Beside the bell tower lay the weathered wooden mallet and a yellowed sheet of paper with shaky handwriting. When you do something with a true heart, even if unseen, the world is still moved. He held the note for a long time. A breeze passed through the pines, blending with the bell's echo in his memory. And suddenly, he understood there are sounds that need not reach the world because they are struck from within, where there is no fog and every heart can hear. That morning, amid the thick fog, he quietly lifted the wooden mallet and struck the bell 3 times. Its sound rose and faded into the mist. But this time it was not only the outer fog, the fog inside his heart also began to clear. The bell in this story is more than a sound. It is an act of mindfulness, a symbol of living truly, of doing, without seeking results. The Buddha taught, "The practitioner does not seek success, but the purity of heart in the act itself." In life, we often act only when others are watching, when there are results, when we will be recognized. We strike the bell to be praised for its beauty. We meditate to be called peaceful. We help others to feel good. But when our actions are bound to outcomes, our hearts are no longer free. The old man rang the bell in the fog. No one heard yet. Each sound cleared his heart. He did not need the world to change, only to become light within himself. That is the spirit of non-attachment in Zen act, because it is right, not because it is rewarded. Like a flower blooming not for anyone to admire, but simply because it is time. In modern psychology, this is called the flow state, the state of total immersion. When one acts wholeheartedly without concern for outcome, the brain enters its most focused, stress-free, and fulfilling mode. It is how a Zen practitioner lives fully present, unattached. In Buddhism, mindful action arises not from the wish to be seen, but from gratitude and awareness. When you wash dishes, just wash dishes. When you walk, just walk. When you breathe, just breathe. These small acts are the bells in the fog clearing away the mist of daily worries. The story of the old man mirrors our own lives in this noisy world. Perhaps you too are the bell ringer in the fog, quietly doing things no one sees, caring for aging parents, enduring misunderstanding, holding on to integrity in a place that no longer values it. You may feel unseen, exhausted, unacknowledged. But remember, every sincere act has its echo. When you live kindly, even without praise, the world heals a little. When you keep your heart pure, even if unnoticed, your energy changes the space around you. The Buddha taught, "No good deed is small. No seed of heart fails to grow. Like sound moving through mist, we cannot see its path, yet it vibrates everywhere. Scientists have shown that kind acts trigger oxytocin, calming the nervous system and enhancing emotional resilience. When you help others, even in secret, your brain releases the chemistry of happiness. So the world doesn't need to hear your bell, only you need to listen to it. Tonight before you sleep, try becoming the bell ringer in the fog. You don't need a real bell. Just sit quietly, close your eyes, and listen to the bell in your breath. Inhale, know that you are inhaling. Exhale, know that you are exhaling. That is the first bell. If your mind feels heavy, imagine each exhale as a bell tone fading into space. Worries, anger, regret, they are only fog. They are not real. They only obscure your inner light. When the bell of mindfulness sounds, that fog dissolves not because you push it away, but because you have become luminous. Do not seek recognition. Do not wait to be understood. Simply live each breath completely, like the bell ringer in the fog, silent, whole, sincere. If you practice this each night, your sleep will deepen, for in your heart there is no one left to convince, nothing left to prove. Only a clear mind remains amid the dim world. When the bell within rings, the mist begins to part, and we start to see the truth of all things. Nothing is ever lost, only transformed. The bell becomes silence, the breath becomes peace, and in the final morning, when the mist lifts completely, even the raindrops on the roof begin to fall. A young novice saw them and asked, "Master, did that drop of water disappear?" The master smiled. It did not disappear. It simply returned to the ocean. The next story will lead us deeper into the teaching of non-self and return where nothing is lost, only merged into the whole. Early morning at the end of the rainy season, gray clouds drift slowly over the mountain peaks like silver silk. The air is damp and clear, carrying the scent of fresh earth, the fragrance of a season about to pass. On the old tiled roof of the temple, the last drops of water slide down, slowly fall from the eaves and disappear into silence. The sound is so soft, it could be mistaken for a breath light thin, yet enough to make the heart tremble. A young novice sits on the stone steps, his eyes following each drop as it falls. He looks up, his voice gentle but filled with thought. "Master, that drop just fell. Has it disappeared?" A simple question, but one that holds a deeply human fear, the fear of vanishing. We fear that when we are gone, no one will remember us. We fear that what we love will fade. We fear that all our efforts and dreams will eventually dissolve like that drop of water falling from the temple roof. The Zen master beside him stands silently for a while. He doesn't answer right away, only watches the next drop fall from the eaves, dissolve in the dim morning light. Then he speaks softly, his voice warm as wind. It hasn't disappeared. It has simply returned to the ocean. The novice falls silent. In his eyes, something releases like mist dissolving in the early sun. That single line, simple yet profound, spoke not just of the water drop, but of life itself. No one truly disappears. They simply return to where they belong. From that day, whenever the novice heard rain falling, he no longer felt sad, because he knew nothing is ever lost. It only finds its way back to its source. Long ago, in a small temple on the mountainside, there was a young monk named Kairu. He came to the monastery at 16, carrying a burning desire to awaken to understand truth, to become someone worthy of being remembered. To others, Kairu was a diligent student, but inside his mind was never at rest. Each time someone was praised for their progress, Kairu's heart sank. A quiet jealousy arose. Whenever the master called another disciple into his private chamber for teaching, Kairu grew uneasy, feeling left behind. Within him was an invisible race, not against others, but against the shadow of himself. One evening, as light rain touched the old roof, Kairu came to the meditation hall and knelt down, his voice trembling. "Master, I've meditated for years, but my heart is still unsettled. I still see myself as separate from others. I feel small, lonely, and afraid." The master looked at him for a long while. Without a word, he stood and gestured for Kairu to follow. Together, they stepped out to the temple veranda, where raindrops glimmered on the tiles, shining faintly in the gray dusk. One drop fell onto the stone and shattered, gone without a trace. The master asked, "What do you see?" Kairu whispered. The drop fell and disappeared. The master smiled, his eyes gentle as the rain. "You see disappearance because you are looking through the eyes of the self. If you look through the eyes of the ocean, you'll see that the drop has just gone home." Kairu stood still, watching the endless drops fall one after another without end. In that moment, something within him began to crack open. The sound of rain was no longer outside. It echoed in his heart, the same heart he once thought was separate, now revealed as part of the vast sea. From that day, Kairu stopped seeking enlightenment. He performed each small task with calm attention, pouring tea, sweeping the yard, carrying water-washing bowls. He no longer sought praise, comparison, or achievement. In those ordinary acts, he found a stillness that years of meditation had never given him. Then, one summer morning when the first rain began to fall, Kairu looked up at the misty sky. Cool drops rolled down his face. The master approached and saw the serene smile, the smile of one who no longer sought. He spoke softly, his voice mingling with the rain. "Now you understand?" Kairu bowed without a word. In the drop of water upon his cheek, he no longer saw himself, only the ocean smiling back. That story is a metaphor for the journey of every human being, from separation to unity, from the small self to the boundless whole. The drop thinks it dies when it falls from the eaves, but only in dissolving does it truly return to the sea. So it is with us, only when we release our attachment to I and mine do we realize that our true nature has never been apart from life itself. The Buddha called this non-self, not non-existence, but the truth that no separate self exists independently. Everything is interwoven, arising in mutual dependence. We are like drops in the sea, impossible to separate from the current of causes and conditions. When the drop evaporates, it becomes a cloud. When it falls, it becomes rain. When it sinks into the soil, it nourishes life. When it rises again, it returns to cloud. Nothing is lost, only transformed. In modern psychology, Carl Jung once said, "The ego cannot find true peace until it realizes that it is only a part of the whole. Only when we stop clinging to the self, stop thinking I am special, I must be recognized, I must hold on, does the heart open, and we begin to feel oneness with everything around us, people, nature, time. Enlightenment does not come from gaining more, but from shedding the illusion of separation. Have you ever wondered why we suffer when someone leaves, when something ends, or when we ourselves change? It is because we still believe there is a self that is losing. But in truth, nothing is lost, everything is returning. A relationship ends so that love can return to your heart. A person departs so that space opens for you to return to yourself. A season passes so that life can move in its new rhythm. Like a river, if it fears merging with the sea, it will never reach the ocean. But when it flows courageously, it realizes the ocean was always itself. The Buddha said there is no birth and no death, only continuation. Understanding this, we no longer fear loss or change. Every time something slips from our hands, we know it is moving in the right direction back toward home. According to neuroscientists, the human brain reacts strongly to loss because it triggers the survival instinct. Yet studies show that when people meditate on non-self, seeing all things as part of a greater web rather than mine, the brain's fear center becomes less active. The mind grows calm, like a raindrop realizing it is falling toward the sea. Tonight, as you lie down, imagine yourself as a small drop resting on the eaves. No need to hold on, no need to fear the fall. Just feel the coolness of the air and let go. Inhale. Knowing this breath is not yours alone, but part of the endless flow of life. Exhale, knowing you are blending into the living rhythm of the earth and sky. When you see yourself as part of the ocean, you will no longer feel alone. When you see that nothing truly leaves you, will no longer cling. And when your heart moves in harmony with the universe's breath, sleep will come gently like a drop of rain falling. You don't need to strive for peace, just allow yourself to fall into peace. When you understand that the drop never disappears, but simply returns to the ocean, you'll see that all your lifelong seeking and struggle were only a journey back to what was always there, your true nature. But sometimes in clinging to appearances, we polish and decorate, trying to create a better version of ourselves, forgetting that our essence was already perfect. The next story will speak of that return, not adding more to become better, but letting go to return to who you truly are. That morning, the garden behind the monastery was still covered in mist. Dewdrops rested on the leaves, glimmering like the breath of dawn. Amid the stillness, the rhythmic sound of a hammer echoed the sound of a stone craftsman sculpting a statue. Each strike fell light but steady, resonating through the forested hills like the beat of meditation. He was not merely shaping stone. It seemed he was conversing with it, seeking to awaken the spirit sleeping within. The Zen master passed by and stopped to watch in silence. The statue had begun to take form, a Buddha slowly emerging from the rock. But the face was still rough, not yet carrying the gentle serenity the craftsman longed to express. After a while, the man set down his hammer, wiped the sweat from his brow, and murmured softly, "I've worked so long, but it still doesn't look right. The more I carve, the more mistakes I see. It feels like something is still missing." The master smiled. His words reflected not just the craftsman's struggle, but the struggle of every human being. Who among us hasn't felt not enough? We keep adding things to our lives: more knowledge, more achievements, more reputation, even more worries. Yet the more we add, the further we drift from peace. The master gazed at the statue and said gently, "Perhaps what makes it imperfect is not what's missing, but what's too much." The craftsman froze. In that moment, he understood, like the stone, a person shines only when they dare to remove what is unnecessary. Desires, fears, and comparisons that cover the purity within. From that day, the sound of his hammer changed it, became lighter, slower, as if he were no longer carving stone, but gently dusting off layers from his own heart. Long ago, in a small village at the foot of a mountain, there lived a stone craftsman, known throughout the region for his skillful hands and pure heart. One day, he was invited to a temple to sculpt a statue of the Buddha. The entire village believed the statue would become a masterpiece, not only of craft, but of spirit. On the first day, he chose a large, rugged block of stone. Before striking the first blow, he meditated for 3 days, quietly gazing at the stone as if looking into his own heart. Then he began to carve each stroke steady and deliberate, yet gentle, as though he were speaking to the stone rather than shaping it. 3 months passed. The form of the Buddha emerged, clearly seated in meditation, the body full and balanced, every detail finely made. Villagers came to admire it, praising his talent. Yet only the craftsman himself was not content. Each time he looked into the statue's face, he felt something was missing. A spark of life, a quiet light, a soul his hands could not reach. One night, burdened by this thought, he went to see the abbot of the temple. He said sadly, "I've done all I can, but the statue still isn't beautiful. Maybe I need to add a few more touches, adjust some details." The Zen master didn't answer immediately. He walked out to the courtyard where fragments of stone still lay scattered from the sculpting process. He picked up a small piece, placed it in the craftsman's hand, and said, "Each time you struck the statue came closer to its true form, yet now you wish to add more. Don't you see the contradiction?" The craftsman asked in surprise. "But isn't art about adding, master?" The master smiled, his eyes gentle like the morning mist. "The art of the spirit is the opposite. Do not add, begin to remove." The old man stood still. That sentence struck like the final hammer blow, but not upon the stone, upon his heart. That night, he did not touch his tools. He sat quietly before the statue, simply watching, making no corrections. And in that silence, he finally saw what he had missed before. Within those seemingly rough lines, there was already life, a natural kindness and serenity waiting to be seen. From that day forward, he no longer sculpted, he listened. Every morning, he gently wiped the dust away, sometimes smoothing a small corner. Until one day, as sunlight entered the hall, the Buddha's face in the stone suddenly shone bright. Not because he had added anything new, but because he had finally learned to stop. That story is a metaphor for the path of practice, the way of not adding, but letting go. The Buddha taught enlightenment is not about gaining something new, but about seeing what has always been. Just as the Buddha statue is not created from the outside, it has always been within the stone. The sculptor merely removes the excess. Each strike of the hammer is an act of release, a clearing away of what conceals the truth beneath. Likewise, each of us already carries within the seed of awakening, but we cover it with too much desire, fear, comparison, insecurity, regret. We think we must gain more experience, more success, more knowledge to be enough. Yet the more we add, the heavier the mind becomes. Zen does not teach accumulation. It teaches undoing. Undoing each layer of illusion about me. Undoing each layer of fear and craving, until only clarity remains like a mirror untouched by dust. In modern psychology, this process is called unlearning, releasing what is unnecessary to return to natural, effortless awareness. We often believe happiness comes from more money, more love, more achievements, more recognition. But the truth is, the more we add, the more we must defend, and the more we fear losing. Happiness does not come from having more, but from removing what disturbs the mind. Less judgment, less holding on, less comparison, less demand to be understood. Some may ask, if I stop adding, won't life become empty? The answer is no. When what is false is removed, what is real appears. It's like cleaning a cluttered room. At first it feels cramped and suffocating, filled with things we once thought essential. But as we clear it, space opens, light enters, and we realize the beauty was always there. It was simply hidden. A Stanford University study found that people who practice minimalism, living with less, report twice the level of contentment and peace as others. Their brains show lower stress activity, no longer overwhelmed by too much noise. The same applies to the mind. When it is not clouded by desire, it becomes luminous. When we stop trying to prove anything, we naturally become ourselves. The Buddha said, "When the mind neither adds nor subtracts, that is nirvana." Tonight, before you sleep, try something small. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Close your eyes and imagine your mind as a block of stone. Within it lies a Buddha, bright and serene. Each exhale is a light tap of the hammer, removing a thin layer of dust. One layer of anger, one layer of fear, one layer of craving. Continue this way. Your breath is the tool, your mind, the stone being refined. You do not need to make your mind peaceful, it already is. You only need to stop disturbing it. Let go of each thought, each emotion, each unfinished task. When you stop trying to be at peace, peace arrives by itself. When you stop trying to be someone, the light within you begins to shine. Before you drift into sleep, let your mind be like a statue just completed, not because it is perfect, but because it has stopped striving. Inhale, feel your body grow light. Exhale, release everything. Nothing to prove, nothing to add. Only pure presence, like clear water reflecting the moon. When the sculptor stopped carving, he realized that beauty was never in the adding, but in the letting go. And in that stillness, he finally saw the Buddha in the stone, or rather, the Buddha within himself. But life is not always as still as stone. Some days we must walk through muddy paths, burdened, messy, full of difficulties. And within those very paths, the next lesson awaits. When we stop resisting the mud, we see that the lotus grows from it. The next story is the journey of a disciple who learns to see suffering not as an enemy, but as the soil that nourishes awakening. After last night's rain, the path leading to the monastery was covered in mud. With every step, the ground sank softly beneath the feet, leaving deep imprints. The morning wind carried the scent of damp earth, and the faint song of birds mixed with the cool air, like a melody both somber and soothing. A young disciple was sweeping the courtyard when he glanced at the muddy road and frowned. He muttered, "Why doesn't the master have this path repaired? It's always slippery, always dirty. Every time I walk through it, my robe gets stained with mud." That complaint seemed trivial, yet it revealed a familiar human irritation, the discomfort we all feel when life presents something we do not want. We often believe that peace comes only when the path is smooth, the weather kind people agreeable, and circumstances favorable. But life does not work that way. Some roads exist only to teach us to slow down. Some patches of mud appear not for us to avoid, but to help us see ourselves reflected in them. That morning, the sky still held the moisture of the night rain. In front of the temple gate, the earthen path was soaked the puddles, reflecting faint images of the Bodhi trees. Inside a small room, the young disciple entered his robe, hem still marked with mud. His face was tense as he spoke irritably. "Master, I don't understand. The temple is so serene, why leave the entrance so filthy? Every time it rains, the path turns into a swamp. I try to avoid it, but it's impossible not to get dirty. It's frustrating." The Zen master sat quietly on his grass mat, eyes half closed, as if still listening to the wind outside. After a moment, he opened his eyes and pointed toward the window. "Do you see that lotus?" The disciple turned. Outside in the small pond behind the garden, a pink lotus bloomed amid the muddy water. Morning light danced on the raindrops, still clinging to its petals, making them glisten like gems. "Where did that lotus grow from?" the master asked. "From the mud, master," he answered, still uncertain. "Then, do you think the mud is bad?" "The mud is dirty, master." The master smiled, his voice gentle as a breath. "If you stop resisting the mud, you'll see the lotus growing from it." The words fell softly, but they sank deep, like a drop of water, into dry soil. The disciple bowed his head, silent. Within that silence, he felt something deeper than words begin to stir. The next afternoon, after the rain had passed and sunlight returned, the disciple walked again along the same path. It was still muddy, still uneven, but this time he didn't avoid it. He stopped to look closely. Sunlight touched the brown surface, creating a warm, soft glow. The dew on the grass sparkled like tiny diamonds. The air smelled rich and alive. He realized that the muddy road had never truly hindered anyone. It had only been teaching those who walked it how to step lightly so as not to soil themselves. Life, too, was the same. Suffering, pain, and disappointment were not punishments. They were lessons in how to walk more mindfully. From that day on, whenever it rained, the disciple no longer complained. He still walked the same muddy road, feet sinking into the wet earth, but now with calm and ease. Each stain on his robe no longer annoyed him. It became a mark of someone learning how to walk through life without avoidance. One morning, as he saw the lotus blooming again in the pond, he smiled. The mud was still there, but his eyes had changed. He understood that peace does not come when the road dries, but when the heart can smile amidst its own mud. That small story is a metaphor for every person's spiritual journey. The Buddha once taught, just as the lotus is not tainted by the mud, the wise remain undefiled amidst the world. Suffering, pain, adversity, they are the mud. No one likes mud, but without it, the lotus cannot bloom. Likewise, without suffering, wisdom cannot arise. Each of us has tried to avoid pain. When we lose something, we try to forget. When we are betrayed, we build walls. When life disappoints, we blame, resist, or run away. But it is this very resistance to reality that deepens our suffering. The Buddha said it is not suffering itself that causes pain, but our refusal to accept it. Mud is not inherently bad, it simply exists. It becomes suffering only when we add resistance, judgment, and anger to it. Zen teaches us to see things as they are. See mud as just mud. See anger as just anger. See loneliness as just loneliness. When we see fully without adding opinions, labels of good or bad, we step into freedom. In modern psychology, this is called radical acceptance. Not resignation, but the deep recognition that this is what is here. And when we stop trying to fix everything, the mind begins to settle clearer, calmer, and lighter. If you notice, the times we grow the most are rarely when life is easy, but when we are forced to walk through the mud. Heartbreak teaches us impermanence. Failure teaches us cause and effect. Loneliness teaches us to return to ourselves. Mud is not punishment. It is the lesson itself disguised in an unpleasant form. When we judge the mud, it becomes an obstacle. When we stop judging, it becomes our teacher. Neuroscientists have found that when people accept difficult emotions without resistance, the brain regions linked to stress decrease in activity. The nervous system stabilizes, breathing deepens, and the heartbeat slows. In other words, when we stop fighting reality, both body and mind begin to heal. Like the disciple in the story, only when he stopped resisting the mud did he see the lotus blooming from it. Likewise, in life, only when we stop resenting our circumstances can we see the light of understanding rising from within our pain. Suffering is not the darkness of the spirit, it is the soil of awakening. When we sit quietly within it, willing to look, a lotus begins to bloom. Tonight, before you sleep, try something simple. Recall something that has hurt you, an event, a person, or a disappointment. Do not push it away. Do not try to change it. Just sit quietly, close your eyes, and breathe. Inhale, acknowledge that the mud is here. Exhale, smile at the mud. The mud is no longer your enemy. It is part of the garden within you. And in that garden, if you are patient enough, you'll see a lotus slowly opening. Let your breath guide you to move more slowly. Each breath is a step on that muddy path. Do not try to avoid the puddles. Just place your feet lightly and feel. When the mind no longer fears dirt, the heart becomes clean. When we no longer run from suffering, we touch peace itself. Then you can let everything go as the disciple released his irritation, as the earth released the rain, as the lotus released its petals to the morning light. The muddy road will eventually dry, but what we learn from it, humility, acceptance, and the ability to move gently, will remain in every step we take thereafter. And when the heart has learned to accept the mud, to let life be as it is, another challenge arises, letting go of what we think we already know. Because sometimes it is not the mud that blocks our vision of the lotus, but the cup already full within the mind. If the cup is full, no matter how much tea is poured, it will overflow. If the mind is full of preconceptions, no wisdom can enter. The next story will tell of the moment when a scholar had to relearn the simplest lesson of all. To receive wisdom, the mind must first be empty. Morning at the monastery. The mist was as thin as the first breath of the day. Dewdrops clung to bamboo leaves, falling softly to the ground, each drop making a faint tapping sound like the gentle whisper of the earth and sky. The stillness was so complete that one could hear the wind slipping through the window cracks and the quiet bubbling of a teapot over the charcoal stove. A young disciple was sitting in the meditation hall, wiping a table while muttering, "I've read all these sutras, listened to countless teachings, memorized many wise words, yet my mind is still restless. Why is it that the more I learn, the more exhausted I feel?" That question, many of us have asked it of ourselves. We read, study, search, and strive to understand more, but the harder we try, the fuller the mind becomes. Like someone carrying a bag overflowing with jewels so heavy that there's no room left to breathe. We do not suffer because we lack knowledge, but because we don't know how to stop when we are already full. In Zen teachings, there is an old saying, "When the cup is full, everything added becomes a loss." To receive something new, there must first be emptiness. And this story begins with a simple tea ceremony when a famous scholar came to seek wisdom from a Zen master, only to find that the lesson he needed was already waiting inside his cup. Long ago, in a quiet mountain region, there lived a scholar renowned for his vast knowledge and eloquent teachings. He had read thousands of books, mastered Buddhist scriptures, understood both Eastern and Western philosophy, and was considered one of the wisest men of his time. Wherever people gathered to discuss truth, he could quote the Buddha and the sages with ease, and all who heard him admired his brilliance. Yet beneath the applause and respect, he felt an inexplicable emptiness. Each night, surrounded by books, he stared at the sacred texts and felt no peace. The more he studied and lectured, the more he sensed that something essential lay beyond words, something his intellect could not reach. One day he heard of a Zen master who lived as a hermit on a distant mountain, a teacher whose few words were said to awaken hearts. Hoping to find his final answer, the scholar decided to visit him. The path to the mountain wound through tall pines and soft mist. When he arrived, he found a small bamboo hut nestled among clouds. The old master greeted him with a gentle smile and few words. After a short exchange, the master began to pour tea. Steam rose lightly as the tea flowed into the cup, fragrant and warm like morning air. The scholar watched quietly. When the tea reached the rim, the master continued to pour. The liquid overflowed, spilling across the table and dripping onto the ground. Unable to contain himself, the scholar exclaimed, "Master, the cup is full. Please no more." The Zen master looked up, his eyes calm and clear. "Like your mind," he said. "Full of knowledge, full of concepts, full of right and wrong. No matter how much truth I pour, not a single drop can enter." The room fell silent. The sound of wind passing through the bamboo curtain seemed louder than before. The scholar froze. The tea still dripped, slow, deliberate, like an unspoken reminder. After a moment, the master set down the teapot and said softly, "To see the way, you must first empty your cup. When there is no more, I know. No more, I understand. Then truth reveals itself." The scholar bowed his head. Something inside him collapsed, but in that same moment, another door quietly opened. He asked permission to stay at the temple for a while to learn how to pour out the fullness of his own heart. At first, his old habits remained. He still wanted to analyze, to interpret, to find the meaning in every small act. But slowly, as he lived among the sound of morning bells, the warmth of tea, and the long stretches of silence, he began to realize not everything needs to be understood. Some things can only be seen when the mind is no longer crowded with what it believes to be true. Years later, when someone asked him what he had learned most from that monastery, he smiled and said, "The hardest thing is not to gather more, but to let go. Not to learn how to contain, but to learn how to be empty." And in the mountain dusk, the cup of tea in his hand sat quietly, neither full nor empty, but perfectly balanced, just enough to reflect the sky. The story of the overflowing cup has been told for centuries for its deep symbolism. In Zen, the teacup is not just an object, it is the image of the mind. When the mind is full, whether full of knowledge, experiences, or opinions, wisdom cannot enter, the Buddha taught. When one is full of self, one cannot see the Dharma. An empty mind does not mean ignorance, it means openness. Empty to receive, empty to listen, empty so that light may enter. In modern psychology, this is called the beginner's mind. The state of seeing with freshness as if for the first time. It is the mind of one who does not claim to know, but remains curious and present. When you look at a flower and think, "I already know this," you only see the concept of a flower. But when you look without labels, without memory, you witness the living miracle unfolding before your eyes. Letting go of old views is not a loss, it opens space for truth to appear. An empty mind is like a clean mirror. It reflects everything, but holds on to nothing. When the mirror is clouded with dust, the dust of, "I know I'm right. I need. I'm afraid the light of wisdom cannot shine through." In daily life, we are often like that scholar carrying minds full of judgments, memories, and fears. When someone disagrees, we react instantly. "I already know." When something happens, we rush to label. This is bad. But this knowing blinds us to what is actually unfolding. Sometimes we don't need to understand more, we only need to pause and listen. Not to analyze, but to feel what is present. When the mind is empty, we listen not just with our ears, but with our whole being. When the mind is empty, we see not through the lens of the past. When the mind is empty, we are no longer ruled by yesterday's thoughts. Neuroscientists have found that when people enter a state of open awareness, a wide, non-judgmental attention, the brain regions linked to fear and stress become quiet. Meanwhile, areas associated with creativity and empathy grow more active. In other words, emptiness is the foundation of wisdom and compassion. Like bamboo, the more hollow it is, the more deeply it can resonate. Like a cup of tea, only when empty can it receive new flavor. And like the human heart, only when we let go of me can we hear the voice of the universe within. Tonight, as you lie down, imagine holding a cup of tea. Each drop inside represents something you carry in your mind: worry, opinion, fatigue, fear, pride, expectation. So many things that have filled the cup to the brim. Now gently tilt the cup. Each exhale is a drop that spills out. One drop for the past. One drop for sorrow. One drop for the need to prove yourself. Inhale, feel the cup grow lighter. Exhale, feel the mind grow empty. When the cup within you becomes empty, you'll realize peace was never far away. It was always shining at the bottom where the clear water reflects the moon of your true mind. You don't need to learn more to find peace. You only need to pour out what weighs you down. Let go to see, empty to receive. That is how the mind is reborn with every breath. As you relax your body and let your breath flow naturally like a stream, you are emptying the cup of your mind. And in that very emptiness, sleep arrives light, deep, dreamless, unbound. When the mind is empty, we begin to see things as they truly are, no longer clouded by. I know we recognize the beauty, even in imperfection. Like the old temple bell, cracked but resonant, its tone imperfect, yet so honest that it moves the heart. When we stop chasing perfection, we begin to hear the sound of impermanence itself, where every crack shines like a trace of the journey it has endured. Have you ever tried so hard to be perfect that you forgot how to breathe? We want everything to be flawless, work to go smoothly, love to go as planned, the body to stay strong, the mind to remain calm. Yet life never follows our design. Just a small crack in a vase, a scar on the skin, or one careless word that breaks a relationship, any little imperfection can unsettle the heart. And so instead of hearing the music of life as it is, we only hear the voice of judgment inside our head. No, not enough. Fix it. Be better. Strangely, the more we try to fix things, the more we lose what is. The harder we try to heal, the deeper we fall into the pain of not being able to accept reality. Like someone standing in the dark, striking a bell again and again, convinced that its sound isn't pure enough. But if one day we stopped and simply listened to the tone of that brokenness, we might hear another sound raw, fragile, yet deeply true. The next story begins in a moment like that, in an ancient temple deep in the mountains where autumn leaves fall and the evening bell still echoes through the valley. Among the old cedar trees surrounded by mist stood a temple over 100 years old. In the main hall hung a great bronze bell, its body darkened by time-green moss gathered around its rim like the robe of age. Every afternoon, as the sun leaned behind the mountains, the old Zen master would ask his disciple to strike the bell to announce the hour of meditation. The sound was deep and resonant, like the voice of the earth or an echo from a distant realm. It rolled over the temple roof, through the forest, blending with the stream, the wind, and the breath of those sitting in meditation. Hearing it, hearts softened. Worries seemed to dissolve in its vibration. But one day, after a great storm, the bell no longer sounded the same. When the disciple struck it gently, the tone came out hoarse and uneven, mixed with a trembling echo, like a cry caught in the wind. Alarmed, he ran to his teacher. "Master, the bell is cracked. I'll have it recast immediately." The Zen master looked out at the courtyard where the fading sunlight painted the bell in soft gold. A thin crack ran down its side like a scar time had carved. He smiled and said slowly, "There's no need. Let it ring as it is." The disciple was puzzled. "But master, the sound is no longer pure. It's wrong. It's distorted." The master replied, still gazing toward the horizon. "That crack is now part of the bell. Let it speak the truth of impermanence." The disciple fell silent. He did not fully understand, but bowed in respect. From that day on, each evening he struck the bell again. Its sound, cracked and uneven, first felt unsettling, incomplete. But gradually, as he sat still and listened deeply, he began to hear what he had never heard before. The tone was no longer smooth, yet it touched the heart more profoundly. It carried the sigh of passing years, the tears of loss, and the whisper of acceptance. Each time it rang, the sky seemed to pause, the wind stilled, birds fell silent, and in that stillness, the disciple no longer heard distortion, but a quiet beauty that pierced the soul. One evening, as the sun was setting, he asked, "Master, why does the cracked bell move me more than the perfect one ever did?" The Zen master looked toward the mountain peak where clouds were parting after the rain. The last light of day reflected in his calm eyes like still water. "Because you've stopped chasing perfection," he said. "You've begun to hear your own sound within it." The disciple bowed. In that moment he understood something that years of meditation had never revealed. True stillness is not found in flawless sound, but in a mind that accepts every fracture of life as part of the whole. From then on, every evening the broken bell rang through the forest, and those who passed by would stop and listen. They did not hear a wrong sound. They heard the gentle truth of impermanence, where everything once broken can still sing its own complete song. In Zen, there is no right or wrong in the ordinary sense. Some things are beautiful precisely because they are imperfect. Some cracks exist only so the light can enter. The sound of the cracked bell is a symbol of impermanence, the natural law that everything must change. When we resist change, we suffer. But when we face the crack and accept it as part of our being, we begin to hear the song of life within it. So it is with the human heart. No one lives without scars, mistakes, or things they wish to forget. Yet, it is these very cracks that make us capable of compassion, humility, and love without demand. The Buddha taught in the Dhammapada, just as the lotus rises from the mud unstained, the wise live in the world yet are not bound by it. A person can truly see only when they dare to look at both the beauty and the flaws within themselves without judgment. Like the Zen master who refused to repair the bell. He understood that what needed mending was not the crack outside, but the resistance inside the human heart. In life, we often measure happiness by perfection, success at work, ideal relationships, strong bodies, peaceful families. But true peace does not lie in completeness. It lies in the ability to embrace what is incomplete. A study from Harvard University found that people who practice radical acceptance, the complete acceptance of reality, experience lower stress levels and greater happiness, because they no longer waste energy fighting what cannot be changed. Like the cracked bell, the more you try to fix it, the more you erase its soul. Yet when you accept it, it becomes a sound unlike any other. And so it is with your life only. When you stop comparing, stop forcing yourself to be like someone else, can you finally hear the unique music of your own heart? Acceptance does not mean surrender, it means releasing resistance. It does not mean giving up, it means no longer denying what is. When we dare to sit quietly with our own sadness, to listen to the trembling sound of our inner voice, we discover that beneath it all, there is a purer tone still ringing the sound of awakening. Tonight before you sleep, try this. Take a deep breath. Feel your body without trying to fix anything. If you're tired, let yourself be tired. If you're sad, let yourself be sad. If your mind is tangled, let it be tangled. Don't force yourself to be calm. Just observe. True peace does not come from silencing the waves, but from realizing you are already within the ocean. Like the Zen master listening to the cracked bell, listen to your own sound. Even if it's rough, uneven, or hoarse, it is still real. In that truth, sleep will come naturally. And in that sleep, you are no longer the one seeking peace. You are peace itself, breathing. Night deepens over the temple. The sound of the cracked bell fades into silence, leaving behind a stillness so pure, it feels like everything has just been cleansed. The disciple sits under the eaves lamplight, resting softly on his serene face. The Zen master looks at him and says slowly, "When you stop trying to make everything perfect, light will spread naturally. Like a blind man carrying a lamp not so he can see, but so that others will not stumble upon him." And so the next story begins with another layer of letting go, acting without desire, giving without expecting, simply because that is how light moves through the world. Have you ever felt exhausted from constantly trying to prove that what you're doing is right? There are times when we act out of kindness, yet one small criticism still makes the heart ache. There are times when we help out of love, yet when our efforts go unacknowledged, we feel hurt. Why is that? Because even within our goodness, we secretly hide a wish, the wish to be understood, to be appreciated, to have others recognize the light we're holding. But Zen teaches this true light doesn't come from the lamp in your hand, but from the invisible lamp within the heart, where action is no longer bound by praise or blame, gain or loss. Long ago, in a dark night, there was once a blind man walking down a lonely mountain road with a lantern in his hand. Someone asked him, "You can't see, so why carry a light?" He smiled and said, "I carry it not so I can see, but so that others don't run into me." That simple answer carries the essence of Zen action, without seeking reward, giving, without needing to be seen. That night the moon hung faintly in the sky, its pale light draping the ancient pine forest like a veil of mist. The wind rustled through the branches, whispering softly. A narrow winding path cut through the mountains leading back to the village. On that path, the blind man walked slowly, tapping his cane with one hand and holding a small oil lamp with the other. The flame was weak, but cast a gentle circle of light before him, just enough for others to notice his quiet figure moving through the vast darkness. Villagers who saw him were puzzled. One called out, "Hey, old man, you can't see anything. Why are you carrying a lamp?" The blind man stopped, turning toward the voice. Moonlight touched his calm, kind face, and he smiled a smile soft as the night breeze. "I don't carry this lamp to light my own way," he said. "I carry it so others won't stumble into me." The man who asked stood speechless. The wind moved again through the trees, carrying the scent of damp earth. The blind man walked on, slow but steady. The small lantern swayed gently, its light glimmering on dew-covered leaves, as if 1,000 tiny stars were lighting the path. As the night deepened, a drunken traveler stumbled past, and thanks to that faint light, avoided a fall. A woman carrying her child saw the lamp from afar and felt reassured. A group of lost travelers caught sight of it and found their way back to the road. And the blind man, he continued walking in silence, unaware that the small light he carried had guided so many others. Then a gust of wind came. The tiny flame flickered and went out. Darkness fell thick and deep. The blind man paused, reached his hand into the empty air, and smiled. He said softly, "It's all right. When the outer light is gone, the inner light shines brighter." The night seemed to absorb his words. Only the sound of the wind remained, carrying the scent of pine and soil. In the distance, some could still make out his faint silhouette, a blind man with an extinguished lamp, and yet, strangely, they still felt a gentle radiance around him. The story ends there, light as a breath, but its echo lingers. The man who could not see was the one who illuminated others. His lamp may have gone out, but the light of compassion and awareness never does. Because sometimes true light doesn't shine from the eyes, but from a heart that knows how to walk through darkness, not to see, but so that others won't lose their way. In Buddhism, there is a concept called non-seeking. Acting without expecting results, without craving reward or recognition. It sounds simple, but it is the highest form of practice. For most human suffering doesn't come from doing wrong, but from expecting right. The blind man represents the humble mind aware of its limits, yet not needing to prove itself. And in that humility, it shines. The lantern he carries is the symbol of mindfulness, the inner light of awareness. When a person carries that light within, they naturally become a refuge for others, even without intending to do good. Zen teaches, only actions without purpose are truly pure. Even a good deed, if done with expectation, even the wish for others' happiness, still carries a seed of attachment. But when we act simply because the act feels right, because life itself calls for it without needing to be seen or understood, that action becomes freedom. Freedom is not the ability to do whatever we want, but the freedom from craving while doing what must be done. In daily life, we often carry a lamp, hoping others will notice we are shining. We want recognition, affection, respect, and the image of being a good person. But the more we crave that, the more we lose the essence of goodness. True compassion is not doing to be seen, but doing to relieve suffering in ourselves and in others. A mother caring for her child does not need praise. A doctor saving a life does not need fame. A person quietly sweeping the temple grounds after a ceremony simply so it will be clean, that too is the bodhisattva path in everyday life. Modern psychology calls this state flow. The effortless rhythm of unself-conscious action. When we work without self-concern, without measuring time or reward, the brain releases balanced levels of serotonin and dopamine, bringing calm and clarity. This aligns perfectly with the Buddha's teaching of selfless action. If everyone carried even a small lamp like that blind man, the world would be bright without anyone needing to shout, "Look, I'm doing good." When you hear stories like this, perhaps your heart softens, because you realize there have been times when you too carried a lamp, but wanted others to notice. It's all right. Seeing that truth is already the first step toward awakening. Tonight, before you sleep, try a small practice. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Inhale deeply and exhale slowly. Then ask yourself, what did I do today? Simply because it needed to be done, not because someone would see it. Maybe it was washing a bowl, picking up a fallen paper, smiling at a stranger. Let those small acts be the lamp in your hand, not to light others, but to keep your own heart from bumping into darkness. When your actions are free from expectation, even sleep feels different. Soft quiet without the echo of tomorrow must be better. You fall asleep like that blind man walking through the night, unable to see, but knowing the way. Not knowing yet, still moving forward. And in that space, the light of mindfulness begins to shine. As the oil lamp fades in the wind, the blind man continues walking. He does not stop, complain, or fear, for he understands true light is never lost. It merely changes form from the flame in the hand to the radiance in the heart. In the dark night, we may sometimes feel like a desert, dry, empty, and weary with nothing left to give. But perhaps at that very moment of emptiness, the water of life is seeping beneath the sand, nurturing unseen seeds. And that leads to the next story. The drop of water in the desert, where we will learn this truth. Life truly flows only when we stop trying to hold it. because sometimes letting go is the only way to become full again. Have you ever felt so drained that not a single drop of emotion was left to love? Not an ounce of strength remained to keep trying. You still live still, work, still smile. Yet inside it feels like a desert dry, scorching and weary. Strangely, the more we try to do something to get out of it, the thirstier we become. The more we search for water, the deeper we lose ourselves in the wasteland. We read books, listen to teachings, meditate, pray, yet the heart stays rigid, unable to soften, unable to absorb anything. Why is that? Because sometimes what dries us out is not the lack of water, but our effort to hold it too tightly in our hands. When we grip too hard, the water slips through our fingers. But when we release it, it finds its way to seep down, spread out, and quietly nourish us. The next story tells of a disciple who fell into that same emptiness, exhausted from holding on, and through his master's teaching, discovered a simple yet profound truth. Life only flows when we stop trying to control it. It was noon, and the sun poured down like fire. The monastery lay silent in the valley, surrounded by barren hills and the constant chorus of cicadas. The air was dense. Even the wind was dry, like the earth's parched breath. In the courtyard beside a dry well, a young disciple sat motionless. His brown robe was damp with sweat, his eyes hollow, like a man who had wandered too far and forgotten what he was searching for. When the Zen master passed by, the disciple bowed and spoke hoarsely. "Master, I feel like a desert. I have meditated, chanted, done everything, but I'm still dry. I have nothing left to give. I feel empty, meaningless." The master stopped. He looked at the young man for a long time, then sat beside the well. The wind carried the scent of hot earth. Without a word, he drew a bucket of water, then slowly poured it into his cupped palm. The water was cool and clear, sparkling in the sunlight. The master closed his fist. The water spilled out, dripping through his fingers, falling into the dust and disappearing. "Do you see?" he said softly. "When you try to hold the water, that's when you lose it." The disciple watched silently. The master's cracked hands still glistened with a few droplets. He opened his palm. The sunlight caught the remaining water, making it shimmer before it sank gently into the ground. "Let it soak," the master said. "Soak into what, master?" the disciple whispered. "Into your own dryness. Only when water seeps in can the desert come alive again." The words were as soft as a breeze, yet they struck the disciple's heart like a bell. He looked down at the cracked earth where the drops had vanished and realized that perhaps peace doesn't come from finding more water, but from allowing it to sink naturally. The master stood, his voice deep and calm. "You are not dry because there is no water. You are dry because you refuse to let it go." By evening, the last rays of sunlight stretched across the courtyard tiles. The disciple remained there, feeling something strange stir within, as if inside that dryness a coolness was beginning to return. That night he came back to the well. He didn't meditate, didn't chant, didn't pray. He simply sat and listened. The cicadas had quieted. Now there was only the soft rustle of wind through leaves, the distant chirp of crickets, and the steady beat of his own heart sounds he had never noticed before in his thirst for peace. Then in the stillness, a drop of water fell from the roof into the well. Plink. The sound was clear, deep and alive, a single note of life. He smiled. In that moment there was no dry well, no desert, no seeker of water. Only the stillness itself quietly being reborn where water, earth, and mind met again. The story of the drop of water in the desert is a beautiful metaphor for a mind exhausted by attachment. Humans are already whole, yet we don't believe it. We try to accumulate love, faith, peace, wisdom, like people hoarding water in jars afraid it might run out. But it's that very fear that stops life from flowing. In the middle-length discourses, the Buddha said, "Whatever is grasped brings suffering. Letting go brings freedom." Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means no longer resisting the natural rhythm of life. Like water, its nature is to flow, to cling to nothing, to take no fixed shape. When we let it soak, it doesn't disappear. It becomes an underground current, nourishing plants and reviving the dry earth. That is Zen, not a practice of gaining, but of allowing what already exists to move freely. It's like the breath, you cannot hold it to preserve life. You can only release it and let the next one come. The disciple in the story was not dry because he lost water, but because he feared losing it, blocking its flow. Once he stopped holding on, energy began to return. That is the art of living in harmony, without opposition or control, flowing with the Dharma itself. In modern life, many people are just like that disciple, thinking they are practicing, trying, improving, yet in truth, they are struggling against themselves. We try to control emotions, force the mind to be still, make others understand, and demand life to go our way. But the more the mind forces, the less free it becomes. A study from Stanford University on cognitive psychology found that people who try to suppress negative emotions actually experience burnout faster than those who accept them. It's like holding water in your hands. The tighter you grasp, the quicker it slips away. Only when we stop and let the water soak in can it truly nourish every cell of the heart. If today you feel drained, try changing direction. Don't ask, "How can I fill myself again?" Ask instead, "What am I holding on to that's blocking the flow?" It might be a memory, a dream, a person you once loved, or simply the image of who you think you must be. Letting go of it is not losing, it's giving life space to flow through you again. When we stop resisting, life resumes its natural rhythm, emotions heal, the mind renews itself, and gratitude sprouts from the very soil we thought was barren. Before you sleep tonight, try a simple meditation. Imagine your heart as a vast desert, wide, silent, waiting for rain. Don't call for the rain, just sit quietly. Listen to your breath. Feel the cool breeze passing through. Then imagine each inhale as a drop of water. With each exhale, let that drop sink in. Don't hold it. Don't count it. Don't wish for more, just let it soak. Slowly, you'll feel your body lighten. The tightness in your chest, your throat, your heart begins to soften. Sleep comes naturally, like water seeping deep into the soil, quietly restoring life. When you wake, you no longer feel full or empty, only flowing alive and free. Night falls over the monastery. After months of dryness, the disciple now smiles at small things: dew on leaves, the song of crickets, the faint warmth of a cooling cup of tea. He realizes water never truly disappears. It only changes form, sometimes a cloud, sometimes rain, sometimes a drop of dew melting in his palm. The Zen master looks at him with gentle eyes and says, "You've understood. Not everything needs fixing. Some things just need to be loved as they are." And so the next journey begins. The potter and the broken vase, where we'll discover another lesson in letting go. That wholeness doesn't always come from repairing what is broken. Sometimes it comes from placing a flower in the crack and letting life make it beautiful. Have you ever tried so hard to heal something that you ended up exhausting yourself? A broken relationship, a painful memory, an old mistake. We believe that if we just try hard enough with time, sincerity, and effort, everything will return to how it once was. But the more we try to mend, the deeper the cracks seem to grow. The more we try to fix, the clearer it becomes. Some things simply can't return to what they were. And in that very moment, the question arises, must everything be healed? Or perhaps true wisdom lies in knowing when to stop and accepting what cannot be fixed and still loving it as it is. Just like the old man in the next story. When his beloved vase shattered, he did something no one expected. And from that moment, we understand beauty doesn't always lie in perfection, but in how we look at the cracks with a peaceful heart. In a small mountain village, there lived an old man known for his skillful hands and serene heart. He had been a potter his whole life from his youth until his hair turned white. Under his hands, lifeless clay softened like breath shaped into vases, teacups, and small plates, simple yet elegant. Anyone who saw his work could feel the warmth of human touch, the rhythm of time, and the quiet peace in every curve of the clay. One afternoon, as the sun sank behind the hills, the old man accidentally dropped his most precious vase, a gift from his late wife many years ago. The sharp sound of breaking echoed through the room, and shards scattered across the floor. He stood silently for a long time, saying nothing. The golden light of sunset glimmered on the broken pieces like fragments of memories that could never be pieced back together. That night, he lit a small lamp and sat alone in his workshop. On the table lay the broken fragments. Patiently, he picked up each piece, glued them one by one, waited for them to dry, then continued again. All night long, he worked in silence, as if in conversation with his own heart. When it was done, he looked at the vase, no longer round, no longer smooth. The cracks were visible, uneven, patched together. Gently, he ran his hand over them, a quiet sadness rising in his chest, the kind that comes when one realizes you can mend matter, but never time. The next morning, the sky was clear and soft. He brought the vase out to the porch and placed it on his familiar wooden table. The sunlight fell on the surface of the pottery, making the golden cracks glow in a strange, beautiful way. He sat there for a long time, his gaze softening. Then he stood, walked to the garden, and picked a few white chrysanthemums, his wife's favorite flowers. He placed them gently into the cracked vase. When the wind blew, The light filtered through the cracks, mingling with the white petals, creating a delicate, gentle beauty, imperfect yet full of soul. It was no longer about form, but about acceptance, a quiet reconciliation between loss and existence. At that moment, his young apprentice arrived. Seeing the vase, the apprentice exclaimed, "Master, why don't you throw that vase away? It's already broken." The old man smiled, his voice as soft as wind passing through the roof tiles. "It's no longer the vase it once was, but it is still a place to hold flowers, and that's enough." The apprentice fell silent, eyes fixed on the flower swaying in the breeze, light reflecting off the glowing cracks like wounds turned to gold. Suddenly he understood something no teaching could convey. That brokenness is not the end, it is how the world teaches us to see a new kind of beauty, one that is not perfect, but profoundly real. From that day on, whenever he passed the porch, the apprentice looked at the old vase and no longer felt sadness, only peace. Because sometimes it is through the cracks in life that the light enters. The story of the potter and the broken vase is a subtle metaphor for the art of accepting impermanence in Buddhism. The Buddha once said, "All conditioned things are impermanent." Everything, objects, people, emotions, relationships is constantly changing moment by moment. Yet humans tend to resist that truth. When we lose something, we try to mend it. When a relationship ends, we cling to it. When a memory hurts, we try to erase it. But the truth is, nothing can ever return to how it once was, and the attempt to make everything whole again, that is what makes us suffer. Zen teaches see the crack as part of the whole, just like in the Japanese art of kintsugi, where gold is used to repair broken pottery, not to hide the flaw, but to honor it as a mark of time. In the same way in life, our wounds, failures, and losses are not to be erased. They are to be accepted and loved for. Through them, we grow deepen and learn compassion. The vase does not need to be fixed to be whole again. It only needs to be seen with new eyes. Eyes that are grateful, that understand life continues to flow even through the cracks. When something in our life breaks a dream, a friendship, or a belief, our first instinct is to fix it. We look for answers for healing, but often it is that very desire to heal that keeps us trapped in pain. The practice of Dharma is not about trying to eliminate suffering, but about seeing the true nature of suffering and smiling at it. Like the old man placing flowers in the broken vase, he didn't erase the fracture, he let it become part of the beauty. Modern psychology confirms this too. A Harvard study on emotional acceptance found that people who accept their negative emotions instead of trying to suppress them show higher psychological resilience and lower rates of depression. Because when we allow things to simply be, the inner energy relaxes. The mind stops fighting reality. And when the mind no longer resists, peace naturally appears. So if today you are trying to mend something that is broken, try pausing. Don't ask, how can I fix it? Ask instead, how can I look at it with more compassion? Because sometimes what needs mending is not the vase, but the eyes that hold it. Before you go to sleep tonight, take a moment to reflect on your day. Was there something that disappointed you, saddened you, or felt incomplete? Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and exhale slowly. Picture it as a broken vase resting in your hands. Don't try to mend it. Don't try to make it whole. Just look at it with love. See the cracks as paths of light for through them, you can finally see within. You may whisper softly in your heart, I allow this to be just as it is. And then let sleep come like flowers placed in an old vase, imperfect yet beautiful in its own way. True peace doesn't come from eliminating pain, but from learning to move gently within it. Like water, when it meets a rock, it doesn't fight. It simply flows around it and remains water. That night, as the moonlight shone through the window of the old man's studio, he smiled at the broken vase. Inside, the small flowers swayed with the wind, casting shimmering shadows on the table. A disciple asked, Master, how can I see beauty the way you do? He replied, when your mind is clear, you will see that everything reflects the moon, and the stories that follow will continue guiding us to see that truth is never in what we grasp, but in the stillness that allows us to see things exactly as they are. Because peace is not something to be reached, it is the calm surface of the lake when we stop stirring the water. There are nights when you look up at the sky, see the bright moon, and feel an unfamiliar peace rising within you. Yet in daily life, once you step away from that moonlight, it's so easy to lose that stillness. We often think, if my mind is calm, I will see the truth. But in fact, it's the very desire to be calm that keeps the mind restless. That is the paradox of spiritual life. The harder we try to grasp peace, the further we drift from it. Like someone standing by a lake trying to scoop up the moon's reflection, the more they stir the water, the more the moon shatters. Peace does not come from effort or creation. It arises when we stop disturbing the surface of the mind. Zen teaches that direct seeing itself is wisdom, without reasoning, without craving, without the thought I am seeing. And the following story tells of a young monk who learned this lesson, not from scripture, but from the moon reflected on water. That night, the garden behind the monastery was bathed in moonlight. The moon was so round and bright, it looked like a silver plate hanging in the silent sky. Beneath the mountain, the lake lay still as glass, mirroring the heavens so perfectly, it seemed as though the sky had fallen into the water. The air was so quiet, one could hear even the insects breathing. A young monk had just finished his meditation. Though he had sat for hours in silence, his mind remained tangled. Thoughts rose and fell like unseen waves. The more he tried to suppress them, the stronger they became. He felt far from peace, as if peace was something meant for those more enlightened than he was. He walked along the lake, hoping the cool wind and moonlight would ease his unrest. The moon stretched across the water like a thin silver veil gently trembling. Looking down, he thought, if I could just touch this moonlight, perhaps I would touch enlightenment. He leaned forward, reaching out to scoop the moon's reflection, but his hand met only coldness. The water rippled into countless waves, the moon's image shattered and blurred like torn silk. He tried again once, twice, many times. The harder he tried, the more the moon broke apart. As he was about to give up, a calm voice spoke behind him. "What are you doing, my child?" He turned. The old Zen master was standing there, his robe swaying gently in the wind. Bowing, the young monk replied, "Master, I wanted to touch the moonlight." The master looked at the trembling surface of the lake and softly said, "The moon is not in the water, just as truth is not in your thoughts." He sat down beside the monk. The moon moon's reflection shimmered in his wise, weathered eyes. Pointing to the lake, he continued, "See, when you stop stirring the water, it becomes still. And when the water is still, the moon appears whole. So, I don't need to do anything to see it." Master the monk asked, his voice trembling slightly. "You don't need to do anything to see the moon," the master replied. "You only need to stop disturbing the water." Those words fell into the quiet night like a single drop rippling across the lake. The monk stood silently, then slowly sat down. He no longer tried to find the moon. He no longer tried to meditate or to be peaceful. He simply sat with his breath, the wind, and the sounds of the night. After a while, the wind stopped. The surface of the lake became calm again, perfectly clear like a mirror. And there it was, the moon, round and bright, appearing effortlessly, needing no one to search for it. In that moment, all striving dissolved. He no longer sought peace. He realized it had never left. Peace does not come from effort. It appears when we stop agitating the heart. That moonlit night, he understood the moon had never vanished, only the water had yet to settle. The story, "The Moon in the Water," is a classic Zen metaphor for the nature of perception and enlightenment. The moon represents truth, wisdom, and the pure mind. The water represents the human heart. When the water is clear and still, the moon appears. When it's disturbed, the moon seems broken. But the moon was never lost, only unseen. The Buddha said in the Samyutta Nikaya, "When the mind is still, the truth reveals itself." This reflects the essence of meditation, not seeking peace, but seeing the restlessness so it can naturally settle. When you sit quietly and simply observe your thoughts without resisting, without chasing, the mind gradually clears on its own. The difference between the seeker of truth and the one who sees truth is this: the seeker uses intellect to grasp. The one who sees simply opens the heart and receives. In daily life, we do the same. We try to understand, to control, to arrange everything as we wish, and the more we try, the more tired we become. When we stop analyzing and begin observing, seeing what is without judgment, we are already meditating. Direct awareness free from the filter of thought is silent wisdom. There is no need to try to understand. The deepest understanding comes when effort ceases. In modern life, we often think, if I meditate correctly, I will be peaceful. If I can control my mind, I will be happy. But the more we force the mind, the more it resists. The mind is like a lake. When you try to keep it still, it moves even more. Only when you release control and simply observe does it calm on its own. Neuroscience confirms this. Researchers at Harvard University discovered that when people stop trying to control their stream of thoughts, activity in the brain's stress centers decreases dramatically, improving focus and emotional balance. In other words, relaxing the mind is not effort, it's the end of effort. So if you are seeking peace, try stopping for a moment. Don't try to create it or feel it. Just observe whatever is present, the sensations in your body, your breath, the sounds around you, the light in the room. Don't choose. Don't reject. Like the moon, it doesn't need to be called by name to appear. Peace is the natural state of the mind when it stops judging. And truth, it doesn't reside in books or theories, but in every moment you are truly present. Before you go to sleep tonight, try this simple practice. Sit or lie down comfortably. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, imagine your mind as a lake with gentle ripples. Don't try to stop the waves. Just watch them. Observe each thought as it passes, worry, regret, anger, even joy, all just ripples on the surface. Whenever you notice yourself lost in thought, gently smile and return to your breath. Gradually, you'll see the mind begin to smooth out naturally, like the lake after the wind. And then the moon clarity peace awareness will appear on its own, not because you made it so, but because you stopped disturbing it. The sleep that follows will be deep, not the sleep of someone escaping reality, but the sleep of one who has made peace with it. That night the monk looked again at the lake. The moon was still round, still bright, unchanged. He bowed, feeling the cool mist on his shoulders light as his master's touch, a reminder that peace was never missing, only waiting for his return. From then on, he no longer sought the moon. He tended the garden, swept the courtyard, brewed tea, as if every act reflected the moon within itself. And that is where the next story begins, about a gardener who watered his flowers every day, waiting for them to bloom until one day, when he stopped expecting they blossomed on their own. Because sometimes only when we stop demanding life does life finally bloom in its own time. Morning at the monastery, a thin mist draped over the lake like a veil of white smoke. Dew-soaked leaves fell softly, each drop touching the earth with a sound as faint as breath. A young novice sat under a plum tree in the garden eyes, heavy with sadness. It was the tree he had planted himself more than 2 years ago. Every day he watered it, removed insects, tended every branch and leaf, hoping that one morning it would bloom. But 2 springs had passed, and the branches were still covered in green leaves. Not a single bud appeared. Lowering his head, his voice trembled. "Master, I've taken such good care of it, yet it still doesn't bloom." The Zen master sat under the temple veranda, gazing at the garden. The morning light cast a soft, serene glow across his face. He spoke slowly. "The tree has done nothing wrong. It's simply living according to its own rhythm." The novice looked up confused. "But I've done everything. Why is it still silent?" The master smiled, his tone as gentle as a passing breeze. "Because you've been watering it with impatience, not with faith. How many times in life are we like that gardener, trying endlessly, given everything we have, yet the results never come? We love deeply, work tirelessly, practice diligently, and still peace feels distant, happiness fragile as dew on the grass. That question isn't philosophical, it's profoundly human. We always believe, if I just try harder, if I do it right, if I become better, everything will fall into place. But sometimes the harder we try, the further everything slips away. It's like stirring a glass of water to find your reflection. The more you stir, the cloudier it becomes. Peace does not come from grasping, but from the ability to stop resisting. The essence of this story lies in one teaching: let go of expectations. Live in harmony with nature. Only when the mind stops demanding does life bloom in its own time. Every morning, while the dew still clung to the leaves, the young novice appeared in the small garden behind the monastery. His small hands gently touched every leaf, every branch, as if caring for a fragile life. He fertilized the soil, watered the roots, cleared the weeds, doing everything with sincerity. Yet no matter how hard he tried, the garden stayed silent. No flowers, no new shoots. Every time he looked at the bare soil, his heart sank like a stone. One day, exhausted and discouraged, he went to the Zen master on the hill. Bowing low, he sighed, "Master, I've done everything. I water every day. I talk to the tree. I even pray. But still, no flowers bloom. Is the soil bad, or is my karma not enough?" The master remained silent for a while. Then he said softly, "Come with me." They walked down a path toward a small stream. The water flowed over stones clear as a mirror reflecting the sky. White clouds drifted above, their shapes mirrored in the current. The master picked up a pebble and gently tossed it into the water. Small ripples spread outward, one after another. The clouds disappeared, and the water turned cloudy. "Do you see?" he asked. "Yes, master. The water is murky now, the clouds are gone." The master nodded, speaking slowly. "The clouds are still there. It's the water that's moving." The novice fell silent. The master's words flowed into his heart like a cool breeze. Looking at the boy, the teacher continued gently, "The flowers are the same. They will not bloom while your mind is still unsettled." They stood quietly beside the stream, listening to the water flow. No more words were needed. Only the sound of the wind through the bamboo, as light as the breath of the earth. From that day on, the novice continued tending the garden, but something had changed. He no longer counted the days or waited for blossoms. Each morning he simply watered in silence, watching sunlight fall through the leaves, listening to the birds singing overhead. He realized that some things cannot be hurried, just as the sun cannot be forced to rise earlier. Day by day, his mind grew still like the stream they had watched. In the quiet of each afternoon, he sat gazing at the soil and trees, feeling a soft emptiness within. He understood the flowers might not have bloomed yet, but he was blooming in patience, calmness, and faith. Then one morning in midsummer, when golden sunlight spread across the garden, the novice walked by and stopped. Between the tender green leaves, tiny buds were opening, delicate, natural, effortless, as if they had never been waited for, never been forced. He stood silently smiling. The breeze brushed the petals, carrying a gentle fragrance. The Zen master passed by, looked at the scene, and said softly, his voice blending with the wind, "When you stop demanding, the flowers know how to bloom." And in that moment, the young novice understood. Peace is not the result of striving. It is the gift of letting go. This story may sound simple, yet it carries a profound Buddhist teaching. All suffering arises from expectation. Expectation is a subtle form of craving, wanting things to be different, wanting others to behave our way, wanting ourselves to reach some imagined state. The more we want, the tighter we cling, and the further we drift from truth. In Zen, this is called the seeking mind, the mind that never feels enough, always looking outward, always believing that happiness lies in something else. But meditation seeks nothing. It simply returns us to what already is. Like the young novice in his tree, when he let go of expectations, he didn't lose anything. He only lost the suffering that came from demanding. And in that empty space, life finally revealed itself. The Buddha taught life like water flowing without holding on. If water insists on keeping its shape, it can no longer flow. And if we insist that life must go our way, we can no longer truly live. Modern psychology calls this the paradox of control. The more we try to control life, the more powerless we feel. When we release control, the brain shifts into self-regulation. Stress hormones like cortisol decrease, allowing clarity and calm to arise. In Zen language, this is called following the dharma of nature, not resisting the flow, not forcing, not clinging. Because everything in existence has its own time to bloom. In life, we place countless expectations. This relationship must last. This job must succeed. That person must understand me. I must achieve this by a certain time. But when things don't go as planned, we feel disappointed, guilty, and even lose faith. Letting go of expectations does not mean giving up. It means releasing the need to own the result. You can still tend the tree love deeply and give your best. Just don't force life to bloom according to your calendar. A study from Harvard University on happiness found that people feel truly at peace only when they are fully present in the moment, whether it's pleasant or not. When the mind runs toward the future, it loses the joy of now. The Buddha once said, "No one can clear muddy water by stirring it. Only by being still does it become clear." And that is the key. When the mind stops stirring, peace naturally appears. Tonight, as you lie down, let your mind be like that gardener's. You've done enough for the day now. Let life take care of the rest. Don't try to force sleep. Don't try to meditate well. Just lie still and feel your breath in and out like water flowing. If thoughts arise, don't chase or reject them. They're just the wind, and your mind is the sky. When you stop forcing yourself to be calm, calmness comes on its own. When you stop searching for sleep, sleep will arrive like flowers blooming when the season is right. Peace is not a reward for effort. Peace is the fruit of release. And when we learn to let go of our expectations toward life, a new question naturally arises. If we let go, should we still strive? If everything changes, what does perfection mean? The answer unfolds in the next story of an artist who kept painting, never satisfied until his master said, "Your painting is not perfect, just like you." And that is its perfection. Because sometimes what is incomplete is what makes us whole. And only when we accept that truth do the flowers truly bloom within. Behind the monastery on the mountainside stood a small wooden cabin nestled among the pine trees. Each evening, as the sun slipped behind the hills, blue smoke rose gently from its chimney, mingling with the thin mist. There, an old painter had lived in silence for many years. He had come to the monastery not to seek enlightenment, but to find inspiration. Yet the more he painted, the more restless his heart became. Every day he sat before a blank canvas painting, the same scene over and over, a moonlit field. He adjusted every detail, mixed new shades, changed the lighting, added, erased, repainted. Though the painting was so beautiful that others praised it with admiration, he still felt, it's not enough. One autumn night, wind passed through the pines, and dry leaves rustled softly outside the porch. The old painter sat staring at his work, the moon in the painting reflecting the real moon outside. But between the two moons, he felt only a vast emptiness. He sighed. It's still not perfect. Then gathering some firewood, he lit a flame. Through the thin smoke, the painting slowly burned to ashes. At that moment, the Zen master walked by, stopping quietly at the porch, watching the fire. After a while, he said, "Your painting is not perfect, just like you, and that is what makes it perfect." The painter looked up, startled. The words fell into his heart like a drop of water onto a lake that had rippled for too long. Have you ever wondered why the more you try to perfect yourself, the more incomplete you feel? The more you strive to be better, the worse you think you are. The harder you chase perfection, the more flawed everything around you seems to become. In life, we all carry within us an image of an ideal self, a version more beautiful, more capable, more peaceful. Yet, the moment we try to become someone, we forget who we already are. Like the painter in the story, he could no longer see the beauty of his work because his mind was busy comparing it to an image that never existed. The mind wants perfection, but life is impermanent. The mind wants completeness, but completeness can only be seen when one stops seeking it. The painter's story is a mirror of our own lives. We demand from ourselves, push ourselves to improve, forgetting that life itself is already a masterpiece even while it's unfinished. The fire had died out. The air still smelled faintly of smoke ashes covering the wooden floor. The Zen master sat down, gazing deeply into the eyes of the painter, who trembled as he held a half-burnt brush. The master's gaze was calm like a lake after a storm. "Why did you burn your painting?" the master asked softly. The painter lowered his head. "Because it wasn't perfect, master. Every time I looked at it, I saw flaws." The master smiled, remained silent for a moment, then asked, "When will you finish painting it then?" "When it's truly perfect, master. And when that happens, will you finally be at peace?" The painter said nothing. Only the sound of wind filled the silence. In that stillness, something inside him began to melt, a heavy, tired emptiness. The Zen master rose and walked slowly toward the door. Pointing toward the pine forest where the leaves had turned yellow and were falling softly like the last breaths of autumn, he said, "Do you see those leaves? They fall in different ways, no two alike, yet all belong to autumn. If you wait until the whole forest turns the same color before you look, you will never see the beauty of this season." A breeze swept by, carrying a few yellow leaves that twirled before landing at the doorstep. The painter watched, a gentle sadness and clarity rising within him. Suddenly, he realized all this time he hadn't really been painting. It was the idea of perfection that had been holding the brush, guiding every stroke, forcing him to erase even the tiniest marks that didn't please his eye. And with each erasure, he moved further away from the life within the painting. The next morning, he returned to his easel. Sunlight poured into the room. The ashes from last night still lingered on the floor like a quiet reminder. He picked up the brush, but this time without tension, without fear of mistakes. He painted with his breath, letting the brush move freely, letting the colors flow, letting everything happen naturally, like wind passing, like clouds drifting. When a line went astray, he didn't erase it. He looked at it, smiled, and left it there as part of the whole. Every smudge, every uneven stroke, every patch of light and shadow, they all came together, forming a painting with soul. When it was done, he gazed at it, not perfect, but filled with a deep, quiet peace. The Zen master entered, looked at the painting for a while, then said gently, his smile as warm as sunlight, "At last you are no longer painting. You are letting life paint through you." And in that moment, the painter understood. Perfection is not the absence of flaws, it is allowing everything to be as it is. In Zen, there is an important concept called non-self anatta, the understanding that there is no fixed I, no self, that can ever become absolute. When we insist on becoming perfect, we are still clinging to the illusion of a separate self that needs to be perfected. But that self is only a mirage created by the mind. Just like the painter's work, he believed he was its creator, yet every stroke was born from countless causes and conditions: the pigments from the earth, the light from the sky, the inspiration from the wind. His hand was merely nature's instrument. When we realize this, the heart softens. We stop straining to become someone. We simply live authentically, and in that authenticity, beauty reveals itself. Modern psychology calls this the perfection trap. When we constantly think I have to do better, we easily fall into exhaustion and self-criticism. Every small imperfection becomes proof that we are not enough. But Zen teaches there is no such thing as enough in a universe that is always changing. Even the moon has moments when it is not full. Even the sun is sometimes hidden by clouds. The one who learns to stop to accept oneself as is not lazy, but wise. For they have understood the nature of all things. Impermanence, selflessness, and incompleteness are themselves perfection. Have you ever burned your own painting because you thought it wasn't good enough? An unfinished song, an unfulfilled dream, a relationship that didn't go as planned, all condemned as not enough. But if you look closely, everything is still unfolding in its own rhythm. No seed sprouts instantly. No river flows in a straight line. And no human being needs to be perfect to be worthy of love. In Zen, there is a saying, even when the lotus is in the mud, it is still a lotus. It means you don't need to be pure to have value. Your flaws, mistakes, and scars, these are the very places where the light enters. Neuroscientists have found that when people accept themselves instead of judging the stress center of the brain, the amygdala becomes less active, allowing the body to release oxytocin, the hormone of connection and peace. In other words, when you stop trying to fix yourself, healing begins. Tonight, before you go to sleep, try something simple. Don't try to calm your mind. Don't try to meditate better. Just sit quietly. Place your hand on your chest and feel your heartbeat. Reflect on your day. Maybe you didn't finish everything. Maybe you said something that hurt someone. Maybe you still feel afraid or uncertain. But it's all right. You're still here breathing, living, learning to understand yourself. That in itself is already perfect. As you exhale, imagine every expectation, every comparison, every voice saying, "I'm not good enough," dissolving with your breath. As you inhale, simply feel gratitude for life flowing through you. One breath is enough. Sleep will come, not because you force it, but because you've stopped fighting yourself. Your mind is like water. Once it stops stirring, the moon naturally appears. And when we learn to accept ourselves, we begin to see the world through new eyes. Yet sometimes even a small action, a word, a thought can ripple through the calm surface of the mind. Like a child tossing a pebble into a lake, watching the reflection of clouds disappear, then crying, not knowing that the clouds were never gone, only waiting for the water to be still again. The next story will take you deeper into the art of letting go of control and seeing the changing nature of all things. It is the moment we stop resisting and reality quietly returns to its original peace. Morning in the mountains. Mist covered the lake completely. Above it, white clouds hung low like soft silk draping over water, reflecting the full curve of the sky. Everything was so still, that one could hear only the gentle flutter of wings and the faint brush of leaves touching the breeze. By the lake shore, a child sat quietly, eyes bright as though they were holding the whole sky within them. The child watched with wonder as clouds drifted gently across the mirror-like surface of the water. Then, overcome with delight, the child picked up a stone and threw it in. The stone fell. The water broke apart into countless ripples. The image of the clouds disappeared. Startled, the child began to cry. A Zen master passing by stopped and asked, "Why are you crying?" "The clouds are gone." "Master, I couldn't keep them." The master looked at the rippling lake and said softly, "You cannot keep the clouds. You can only see them when the water is still." The child stopped crying and looked again. Under the sunlight, the ripples slowly faded, and within each soft wave, the clouds began to reappear little by little. Have you ever found yourself like that child, struggling to hold on to what cannot be held, trying to keep someone who is gone, clinging to a feeling that is past, or wanting to freeze a moment that was once heartbreakingly beautiful? The tighter we hold, the faster everything dissolves like clouds. That is life's greatest paradox. We lose peace by trying to control what was never ours to begin with. When we cling, we stir the lake of the mind. And when the lake is disturbed, every reflection, beauty, love, faith becomes distorted. Just as clouds can only appear when the water is calm, truth and peace can only be seen when the mind is still. By evening, the lake turned violet beneath the setting sun. A gentle wind sent tiny ripples across its surface, like the breath of water itself. By the shore, the child sat beside the master, eyes wide, gazing at the sky now filled with drifting clouds. Their reflections shimmered in the still lake, a second world floating beneath the first. "Master," the child asked softly, "why can't I keep the clouds? They're so beautiful. I just want to look at them forever." The master smiled, watching the orange glow spread across the water. "Because you think the clouds are in the lake." The child frowned. "But I see them there. They're clearly in the water." The master pointed upward. "The clouds only reflect in the water, child. The real clouds are in the sky. When you disturb the water, the reflection fades, but the clouds were never gone." The child fell silent. Its gaze lifted from the lake to the vast open sky. Indeed, the clouds were still there, floating free, never imprisoned in the lake. The master's voice was low and steady, like the wind. "Life is the same. When your mind is still, everything becomes clear. When it's restless, you only see distorted reflections of yourself." The child nodded gently, then whispered, "So how can the water in me become still again, Master?" The master looked toward the distant mountains where birds were flying home. "You don't need to do anything. Just stop throwing stones." The words stunned the child. Looking back at the lake, it saw the last ripples fading away, as though even the breath of the earth was settling down. Wave by wave, the water became calm again, so clear that the sky seemed to rest quietly within it. In that moment, the child realized something profound. There was no need to keep the clouds. They were never its to keep. Peace cannot be held in the hands. It can only appear when the heart grows still. As twilight deepened, the lake shimmered in a faint lavender hue. The master and the child sat together in silence. Every sound seemed to dissolve into quiet, and in that silence the child understood. The most beautiful things in life cannot be kept. they can only be seen with a mind no longer disturbed. The story of the child and the lake is a delicate illustration of two core Buddhist truths: impermanence and non-self. All phenomena, emotions. People's circumstances are constantly changing. When we try to control them, we move against the natural rhythm of the universe. It is like trying to stop the wind or capture drift in clouds. Only exhaustion and suffering follow. In Zen, this clinging mind is called attachment. When the mind clings, the water stirs. When the mind releases, the water clears, and the clouds return. The true nature of all things never disappears. We simply fail to see it because our minds are restless. The clouds do not vanish, only their reflection fades when the water is disturbed. The Buddha once taught, "No one can perceive the truth when the mind is in motion. When the mind is still, all things become clear." Many people think meditation means forcing the mind into silence, no thoughts, no emotions, no movement. But true meditation is not about making the mind still. It is about stopping what makes it move. Modern psychology calls this over-control. When we try too hard to suppress emotions, we actually create deeper stress. The brain enters defense mode, releasing cortisol, the stress hormone, and disturbing our mental balance. Only when we allow emotions to come and go naturally does the nervous system truly relax. That is meditation, not pushing away, not holding on, simply observing, like watching clouds drift by. Every day we throw countless stones into the lake of our minds without realizing it. A judgment, a fear, an old memory, an unmet expectation. Each stone clouds the water. Then we sit staring at the murky surface, wondering why peace never comes. But peace has never left. We've only been too restless to see it. Ask yourself, when someone hurts you, how do you respond? When plans fall apart, do you fight or accept? When someone leaves, do you cling or learn to let go? If you still try to control outcomes, that is when you're throwing stones. But if you stop, breathe, and simply watch, the lake will settle on its own. Buddhist teaching tells us that letting go of control isn't surrender or passivity. It's living in harmony with impermanence. Because only in stillness can wisdom reveal itself. A study from Stanford University found that when people observe emotions instead of reacting, activity increases in the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of the brain, while the amygdala, the fear center, becomes less active. In other words, when we stop throwing stones, the mind finds peace on its own. Tonight, as you lie down, imagine a lake within your heart. All day long you've been tossing stones into it. Stones of worry, anger, regret, comparison, and desire. Now it's time to stop. Don't throw anything more. Just lie still. Listen to your breath like the soft ripples of the lake. Each exhale is a wave receding. Each inhale is the water returning to stillness. You don't need to stop thinking. You don't need to make yourself peaceful. Simply be aware and let everything settle on its own. When the water is calm, the clouds will appear. When the mind is calm, peace will return. Not because you tried, but because you stopped stirring. And when you finally see that clouds only vanish when the water moves, you'll realize something deeper. The mind has always been clear, only covered by the dust of ignorance. Like the mirror in the meditation hall, someone keeps polishing it, thinking it's dirty. But the more they wipe, the duller it becomes, because the mirror was already bright. They only needed to stop and see their own reflection. The next story will take you further along that quiet path where there is no need to become better, only to pause long enough to recognize the light that was never gone. Morning in the monastery. Dew still clung to the pine leaves, and the first sunlight gently touched the temple veranda, thin as breath. The early bell echoed through the valley like a soft reminder. Each new day begins not to fix the past, but to reflect on oneself in the present. During that autumn retreat, a young disciple came to the Zen master. His face was tense, his eyes filled with confusion. Bowing his head, he spoke softly. "Master, I've practiced for years, meditated daily, listened to countless Dharma talks, yet I still feel my mind isn't clear. The more I try, the more restless I become." The master looked at him, kind eyes yet deeply still. Then he asked, "What do you do first thing?" "Every morning I clean my room, wipe off the dust and polish my meditation mirror. I want it to stay bright so I can see myself more clearly." "And how long have you been doing that?" "Nearly 2 years, master. But no matter how much I clean, the mirror still looks dull." The master smiled. His eyes closed slightly, as if listening to the wind outside. After a pause, he said gently, "You don't need to make the mirror brighter. You only need to stand still long enough to see yourself clearly." The disciple fell silent. Outside, the sun had risen, piercing through the thin mist, revealing every floating speck of dust. In that moment, he realized it wasn't the mirror that was dull, it was his heart that hadn't yet stilled. And when the heart stops moving, the reflection becomes clear on its own. Have you ever felt exhausted from always trying to become better? We strive to perfect ourselves, fix every flaw, change every habit, read every book, listen to every teaching, yet still feel no closer to peace. The harder we try, the farther peace seems to drift away. It's a familiar paradox of the spiritual path. In trying to brighten the mind, we often make it cloudier, like a mirror rubbed endlessly with dusty hands. Many believe enlightenment is the result of extreme effort, of thousands of hours of meditation and discipline. But Zen is not about forcing the mind to shine. It's about realizing that it already shines. What we need is not to become, but to pause long enough to truly see. In a quiet bamboo forest stood a small Zen monastery. There lived a young disciple of remarkable diligence. Each day he woke before dawn, swept the bamboo leaves from the courtyard, brewed tea for his teacher, then silently sat to meditate. In the center of his room stood a large mirror, a symbol of his mind. Every day he polished it carefully. Each speck of dust was to him a flaw, to erase a fault, to purify. He believed deeply that only when the mirror became perfectly spotless would his true nature be revealed, as his master often taught in the still mornings. Day after day he polished. His hands grew calloused from the cold wind, yet his heart never felt at peace. One morning, sunlight streamed through the wooden slats, and the dust in the air shimmered like countless golden particles. Sweat dripped down as he rubbed the cloth against the mirror, the sound soft and steady in the silence like a sacred ritual. The old Zen master entered quietly. Standing at the doorway, he observed in silence, then asked, "What are you doing?" The disciple looked up and answered quickly, "I'm polishing the mirror. Master, I want to see my true mind clearly." The master gazed at the mirror marked with the student's handprints and smiled. "And is it bright now?" "Not yet. No matter how much I clean, it still looks hazy. Perhaps I still have too many faults." The master stepped closer, placed a gentle hand on the student's shoulder, and spoke slowly, warmly. "You don't need to make the mirror brighter. You only need to stand still to see yourself more clearly." The disciple froze. "Master, what do you mean?" The Zen master looked at the mirror gleaming in the morning light and said, "The mirror has always been bright. It's only distorted because you keep shaking it. The more you rub, the more it trembles. Let it be still. When it is still, you will see everything as it is." With that, the master turned and walked away, his brown robe fading into the bamboo veranda. The disciple remained alone with the mirror. Looking into it, he saw his face reflected sweat sunlight and dust floating in the air. Not dazzling as he had hoped, not perfect as he once sought, but real, profoundly real. And in that moment, he understood the mirror never needed to shine. It was his mind that needed to rest. When the mind is still, clarity appears on its own. The mirror in the story is not just an object. It is a symbol of the mind. The mind is inherently pure, luminous, and reflective. Yet when we try to fix or purify it, we create disturbance. In the Vimalakirti Sutra, the Buddha taught, "The nature of mind is complete, neither increased nor diminished, neither pure nor defiled. When delusion arises, we see impurity. When delusion ceases, we see purity. Yet in truth, the mind itself never moves." Many misunderstand spiritual cultivation as a process of accumulation, adding knowledge, effort, and virtue. But in truth, it is a process of release, releasing the need to become better, releasing the desire to be perfect, because perfection is the illusion of the ego, while awakening is reality beyond comparison. Modern psychology calls this the paradox of control. The more we try to control the mind, the less control we actually have. When the brain is forced to be calm, it triggers anxiety, sensing that something is missing. But when we let go, the parasympathetic nervous system activates the heart rate, slows the breath, deepens, and true calm arises. Meditation does not teach us to polish the mirror, but to stop polishing. Not to neglect, but to realize the light never left. In daily life, we are also polishing our mirrors, trying to prove our worth, our strength, our goodness. We push ourselves to be perfect in work and love, as parents, as children, as monks, as helpers. But these efforts to become often take us away from simply being. One who seeks peace is rarely peaceful. One who chases stillness is often restless, because the very act of seeking confirms that peace is not yet here. When you meditate, instead of forcing yourself to sit correctly, breathe correctly, or think nothing, simply sit and breathe as life breathes you. The breath doesn't need your control. It has known its rhythm since the day you were born. Your heart doesn't need your instruction. It beats faithfully, quietly. In the same way, the light of the mind has never vanished. You may have stared so long at the dust that you forgot the mirror still reflects light, whether you polish it or not. Neuroscientists at Harvard found that when people stop trying to control their emotions, the brain shifts from fight mode to observe mode, and the prefrontal cortex, the center of deep awareness, lights up. Simply put, when we stop polishing, wisdom appears. At night, when your mind feels tangled, try sitting quietly for a few minutes. Don't force yourself to meditate. Don't force yourself to be still. Just sit like a child watching the moon's reflection on water. Each thought that arises, see it as a speck of dust drifting across the mirror. Don't wipe it away. Don't chase it. Just know dust may settle, but it can never erase the light beneath. When you realize this, your breath softens, your shoulders release, and the mind gently quiets. Like water settling after being stirred, the mirror within you begins to reflect clearly, without effort, without correction. And when you lie down to rest, remember you don't need to try to sleep well. Sleep will come naturally, like a flower closing at dusk. Your mind doesn't need to be perfect, only at peace. Then tranquility arises, not from striving, but from ceasing to wish things were different. And when you understand that the mirror never lost its shine, you'll also understand why the Zen master once held up a crystal cup and said, "To me, this cup is already broken." Not out of despair, but out of wisdom, seeing impermanence as truth. Only when we accept that the cup is already broken do we truly cherish each moment it rests in our hands. The next story will take us deeper to see that when we release our longing for things to last, we finally learn to live fully in this very moment. Late in autumn, the afternoon sunlight filtered through the bamboo grove, scattering shimmering patches of light across the ground. The sound of dry leaves rustling in the wind blended into a soft, meditative melody. In the temple courtyard, a Zen master sat beneath the veranda, holding an old crystal cup in his hand. The slanting rays of light passed through it, casting small rainbows onto the ground. A young disciple, having just finished his work in the kitchen, approached, bowed respectfully, and sat beside his teacher. Gazing at the cup, he said, "Master, I notice you treasure that cup very much. Every time you drink, you hold it with both hands as if afraid it might break." The Zen master smiled gently, his eyes still following the streaks of light on the floor. "You're right, I do cherish it, but to me this cup is already broken." The disciple was startled. "But Master, it's still perfectly fine, isn't it? Because I know that one day it will fall. And when it does, I will not be sad. So each time I drink from it, I am grateful, as if it were the last." The words drifted like a breeze. Yet the disciple sat in silence for a long while. He couldn't understand how someone could live peacefully with something already broken. Have you ever felt that the fear of loss kept you from loving again, from trusting again, from opening your heart? We often cling to the things we value: a person, an object, a memory, as if holding tighter could make them last forever. But the tighter we hold, the more it hurts, because reality is always changing. That is the paradox of being human. We love what is beautiful, yet we suffer because beauty does not endure. We long for peace, yet fear change, not realizing that change itself is the essence of peace. In Buddhist teaching, there is a truth called impermanence. that all things, emotions, and beings are in a constant flow of transformation. Nothing is fixed, nothing lasts, nothing can be held forever. It may sound sorrowful, but it is precisely impermanence that gives each moment its meaning. Deep in the forest where morning mist clings to the old pine branches, there stood a small Zen monastery. There lived a master known for his deep compassion and unshakable calm. He owned nothing of value except for a single crystal cup, clear as moonlight. It had been a parting gift from a disciple many years before. Each morning when the sun rose over the hill, the master brewed tea and poured it into that cup. He sat under the veranda, watching the steam rise into the mist, his eyes seeming to gaze through time. Each evening, as the sunset spread across the moss-covered roof tiles, he lifted the same cup and drank slowly, reverently, as though sipping the very essence of the present moment. One day during a Dharma talk, a young disciple sitting near the door asked, "Master, I see you take great care of that cup. Are you afraid it might break?" The master smiled softly. He lifted the cup, letting sunlight pass through it, forming a halo of light in his hand. "My dear, to me this cup is already broken." The room fell silent. The disciple looked at him puzzled. "But Master, if you believe it's already broken, why do you still use it every day?" The master placed the cup before him and said, his voice as gentle as the wind through the bamboo, "Because I know it will break. I truly treasure each moment it is still here. Each time I drink as if for the last time. Each time I look at it, I am grateful that it still remains whole." He paused, his eyes resting on the reflections of light across the old wooden table. "When the day comes that it falls and shatters, I will hear the sound clang and smile, because I have already heard that sound long ago, even while it was still whole." The disciple bowed his head, overcome with emotion. He looked at the cup in his master's hands. It still gleamed, still beautiful, yet in his heart, it seemed to dissolve into 1,000 fragments of light. Strangely, in that moment of seeing it broken, it became more beautiful than ever. Outside, the wind stirred the bamboo leaves. The last rays of sunlight reflected through the crystal cup, glimmering like an unspoken reminder. Everything we love will change. But when we know this and still cherish it, every moment becomes eternal. The cup in this story is the image of everything we possess: our body, our wealth, our loved ones, our work, even our very life. All are temporary. All are on their way to dissolution. Hearing that may bring fear, but in Zen, impermanence is not an enemy. It is a teacher. If nothing ever changed, we would never learn to appreciate. If youth never faded, who would understand the beauty of an ordinary morning? If flowers never wilted, how could we savor their fleeting fragrance? Impermanence teaches us to awaken within the flow of change, not to cling to what cannot stay. When we know that everything will pass, we stop trying to control life and begin to live it fully. The Buddha once said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. When this is seen with wisdom, one turns away from suffering." This is not resignation. It is awakening, seeing life as it truly is, so we no longer suffer from what must naturally change. In modern life, we all live among countless crystal cups. A person we love, we want them to stay forever. A job we wanted to always go well. An achievement we wanted to always be admired. But people change. Jobs shift. Circumstances evolve. We suffer not because things end, but because we believed they wouldn't. When you realize that the cup is already broken, you no longer fear when it trembles. You drink with gratitude, knowing that within impermanence, every moment that remains is a gift. In modern psychology, this is called radical acceptance. Accepting fully, not because we have no choice, but because it is the nature of reality. When we embrace impermanence, the nervous system relaxes, stress hormones drop, the heart slows, and we return to our natural state of awareness. This is meditation in daily life. No striving, just gratitude and presence. As night falls before you sleep, look around your room. A day has passed, yet everything is still here. Your breath, your body, your bed, the cup of tea, your loved ones asleep nearby. Nothing is permanent, and that is why everything is precious. Take a deep breath and think. Tonight the cup is still whole. Tomorrow, whether it breaks or not, I will still be grateful. When you let go of the need for things to stay the same, you begin to feel the peace that was always there, silent, gentle, like the moon reflected on a still lake. Sleep does not come from effort, but from complete acceptance of the present. Let your mind be as light as the master's hand, holding the cup, neither grasping nor letting go, simply cherishing the touch of the moment. As we journey through these Zen stories, from the painter and his unfinished canvas, to the tree that wouldn't bloom, the child, and the lake, the dusty mirror, and now the broken cup, we come to one simple realization. Nothing needs to be fixed. Reality is already perfect in its imperfection. When we release our expectations, life opens like a flower that no one forces to bloom. When we stop resisting, suffering melts away like mist under sunlight. And when we truly see impermanence, fear fades, because we understand that even in breaking, each moment is whole. Tonight, before you close your eyes, let your heart be as light as your breath. Let the past dissolve. Let the future arrive when it arrives. In this moment, just listen to your heartbeat, and you will know. The cup may break, but the awareness that beholds it has never been broken. As this evening's journey ends, I hope you felt something simple yet profound, that peace doesn't come from making things perfect, but from ceasing to demand that they be. All suffering begins when we resist what is, when we want life, others, or even ourselves to be different. But when we pause and look deeply, we see beneath the surface of chaos, life moves with a quiet, kind rhythm. The Buddha taught, when you let go of what is not yours, wisdom shines like the sun freed from clouds. Letting go is not losing, it is returning. Returning to the present, to the breath, to the purest part of your heart. Reality has never needed your correction, only your presence. When you stop resisting, suffering dissolves like mist in morning light. When you stop trying to become someone else, you finally return to yourself. And when you see the world with clear eyes, you'll realize, even without perfection, life is full of beauty, like a wildflower blooming by the roadside, unpraised yet radiant. May these Zen stories be a gentle reminder that living truthfully is the deepest form of letting go. Let go of pretending. Let go of striving. Let go of must be, and return to what is. In that moment, you will see peace was never gone. You had only been searching for it in the wrong place. Thank you for listening and for walking this journey of letting go of expectations, seeing reality as it is. If these words have touched your heart, please subscribe to Buddhism Seeds. Like, share, and leave a comment so together we may continue to plant seeds of mindfulness and understanding in this world. Now close your eyes. Relax your shoulders. Take a deep breath. Let everything be as it is. Peace will come gently, like the wind moving through the forest at night. May you sleep in stillness within the breath of letting go.